Okay, we're going to call to order the City Council meeting. I appreciate folks' patience as we completed our Board of Finance meeting. The date is Tuesday, October 21st, 2025. The time is now 6:15 p.m., and we will call to order a meeting of the Burlington City Council. The first item on our agenda this evening is a motion on our agenda. Could I get a motion from a councillor to approve our agenda?
So moved.
Thank you, Councillor Schachter. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councillor Grant. Any discussion on that item? All in favor, then please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Are any opposed? That carries unanimously. So we have our agenda. The next item on our agenda is public forum. This was set for a time certain of 6:05 p.m. Again, appreciate folks' patience as we work with some other meetings. We'll go ahead and open public forum now at 6:15 p.m. As is our practice, we will hear first from Burlington residents who are here in City Hall. We then have one Burlington resident who's signed up online who we will hear from. We'll then come back here to City Hall for any non-Burlington residents who are here in person. As a reminder, our rule is that in order to participate in public forum online, you need to have signed up at least an hour in advance. If you're here in City Hall, when I call your name, please come forward here to the table. Please make sure, well, it looks like we have a different microphone, so you don't need to, is it just on, Steve? Okay, so you don't need to make sure it's on, it's on. The light will turn on in front of you. Everyone both here in person and online will be provided 2 minutes to speak. If you're online, just give us a moment. We'll let you know when you've been promoted on Zoom and can go ahead and unmute yourself. As always, we respect the diversity of opinions on public issues. We ask, however, that folks' comments please refrain from individualized attacks, certainly refrain from any attacks against someone based on any protected characteristic. We also ask that folks please refrain from any obscenities, loud voice, or other disruptive behavior. If I interrupt a speaker at any point in time, it will be to ask that they please proceed in accordance with these rules. If someone continues to violate these rules, I reserve the right at that time to end public forum for that speaker. So with that, we will go ahead. The first Burlington resident we have here in City Hall is Scott Lowe, who will be followed by David Call.
Thank you, councilors. I wish to speak about subject 5.7, the resolution regarding the charter change, general tax fund fairness. Burlington's tax structure and its housing market are both under a lot of strain. However, what has been suggested should not be done until the public, city residents, and businesses are fully informed, because there's too many questions. Questions to ask about impacts on renters, including tax incidents and pass-through, housing affordability, distributional equity, also reduce incentive for commercial investment, fiscal volatility, exemption creep, administrative complexity, market distortions. These are all things that need to be looked at and analyzed prior to putting anything on a ballot for consideration for a change, especially when it comes to the charter. I have submitted, and it'll be looked at by all of you, a City of Burlington policy analysis memorandum. I've handed them out. Some haven't received it as of yet, but I will be emailing those out. But these are the questions and that need to be asked of the public prior to voting on any potential change on March 3rd. The people need to be informed, and so that they can make the decisions and speak with you about them. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is David Call, who will be followed by David Marr.
Hello, Speaker and Council. I would like to see ban the word homeless and put the word unhoused, to give the dignity and the grace to all those who have no homes. It's a lot easier to go on a resume for apartments and all kinds of other things. You have to use the word unhoused, because homeless has it's like the Australian and the leopards, for example. As a person who really does a lot of work at the pods, I think it would give the people dignity and grace and a possibility to get an apartment. Now, it's hard to get an apartment if you don't have the golden ticket. That's Social Security, SSI, and any other income. And some people can get zero income, but they have to get all those threes after. And a lot of the places, they have to move out too far away because we're not building enough apartments in our city to house these people. Now, working with the unhoused, I feel strongly that a lot of their backgrounds could cause them not to get an apartment. But if they have the golden ticket, they can get a place, but they have to go all the way out to Williston, Essex Junction, all those, and then they have to have a bus every single time, and a landlord who's willing to rent to them for 1/3 of their rent. So my concerns are this. We're not making it easier for the unhoused here. The taxes are too high. The landlords are going to want way too much money. Like my example, my landlord, he's just had to put all new walls in, and he's going to charge $2,000 for this little apartment. So I want to thank you all for, can we make a change and use the word unhoused instead of homeless? Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next speaker is David Marr, who will be followed by Ethan Kiefner.
Good evening. My name's Dave Marr, live in Burlington, in the New North End, to be specific. And I want to thank Evan Litwin and Ali Schachter for the excellent work they did on the CDNR report to address syringe litter. I thought it was well written, well researched, and had some good ideas. In particular, I like the idea of making the SSPs, or syringe service providers, if I have that right. I like the idea of having them take a larger role in addressing syringe litter. The other thing I like is the idea of turning the Howard Center into a recovery center. I think we need to focus more on recovery and less on providing needles and things like that. But I have a great idea. What we should do is encourage folks with substance use disorder to snort or smoke fentanyl rather than injecting it. Now, I don't know how many people here know that, but it can be snorted and it can be smoked. And if you did that, you would eliminate the transmission of bloodborne pathogens, either by sharing needles or by someone picking up a needle and getting stuck by it. Snorting doesn't require any particular apparatus other than perhaps a dollar bill or something like that. And pipes can be reused many times, so there'd be less litter if they are discarded. Also, puncturing the skin with a needle is dangerous. You can introduce bacteria, and it hurts. My cardiologist told me that he gets a lot of cases where people have injected themselves and gotten a blood infection. The bacteria attack the heart valves, so they got people with bad heart valves just from injecting drugs after not cleaning themselves properly. And finally, I think you reduce overdoses if you smoked or snorted your fentanyl. I think that what you could do is, well, you start smoking half a dose. If it doesn't give you enough of a high, then you smoke a little bit more, as opposed to having one thing and inject the whole thing all at once. And I don't know if you know this, but San Francisco is now distributing foil pipes for smoking fentanyl. So I urge you to contact the Howard Center and look into this. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Ethan Kiefner, who will be followed by Gabriella Orzon. And apologies in advance if I get folks' names wrong. Pronunciation is important, so if I do, I welcome your correcting me when you get up here. Ethan?
Hi, my name is Ethan Kiefner, and I'm a member of the Student Tenant Union at UVM. We are a group advocating for the university to provide equitable and decent housing to its students. One of our demands of the university is for them to meet the minimum housing standards, which they have repeatedly refused to do. For over a year, we have been collecting direct testimonials by students who have been affected by the failure of UVM to treat its tenants with the dignity we deserve. I'm going to dedicate the rest of my time to reading a small handful of these testimonials as submitted by UVM students, as will my fellow union members speaking after me. 10/20/25, living and learning. I moved into my suite early and had to deal with a silverfish infestation. They seemed to be crawling up the drain pipes in the bathrooms. I would see 5 or more a day for multiple weeks. Submitted a maintenance report and no one ever came. My suite mates submitted another when they moved in and we got 3 silverfish traps after the silverfish retreated on their own. 4/22/2024, Christie Hall. The room is literally making me and my roommates sick. We had sinus infections basically all winter until we started opening our window again. Also, the bathroom had a leaking hole in the ceiling for 6 weeks before they even came to look at it. My RA submitted multiple fix-it requests and even talked to a manager of Christie Wright Patterson. It was actively leaking water and getting bigger and bigger. 11/15/2024, Mercy Hall. On Halloween, we had a mouse in our room. We called the RA and they said pest control would come the next day. They never came, so after a few days we reached out again. The same thing happened. We have yet to be visited by pest control to this day and get freaked out every time I hear rustling and have seen it since. 2/3/2025, Mercy Hall. It's not just the shower curtains and Mercy Hall bathrooms that are covered in mold. It's the ceilings and the walls. It's pink, orange, and black. They have done absolutely nothing about it despite the complaints.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Gabriella Orzon, to be followed by Iraz Kalajian.
Hi, I'm Gabby, a representative from the Student Tenant Union, and I'll continue reading our testimonials. 9/13/24 in Wright Hall. I was in such a tiny forced triple that I transferred out of UVM after only being there for 5 days. We had to share 2 tiny wardrobes among 3 girls. Some of the showers had mold growing in them. I got approved for accommodations that would give me a room change, but I would have had to live in that room for a month before Res Life would switch me. 11/10/24, University Heights South. The UHS floor 1 door has been getting stuck since I moved in, but now it completely won't open. The elevator button also didn't work, so there was a day where we had no way of getting onto our floor. Individuals had to use their own stuff to prop open the door, or else we're all locked out. 2/10/25, Simpson Hall. There are dangerous levels of mold and many people are getting sick. 9/24/25, Sechel Hall. Bathroom ceiling started leaking, so we called in a maintenance request. The guy came, looked at it, took a ceiling tile off, and left without fixing it. So the ceiling is still leaking and now has mushrooms growing from it. 10/8/24, Richardson, back 5. First day moving in, I got locked inside my room because the door handle was messed up. I had to be drilled out. I was stuck in there for a good 30 minutes. Our door and our suite door don't lock. Our door handles have been changed 3 times and still don't work. Our current handle straight up comes off. My boyfriend was able to put it securely back on, but it won't lock. 4/22/24, Redstone Campus. Last semester, my room flooded when Res Life tried to fix our broken heat. The smell of mold was horrendous and dangerous to my roommate who has a mold allergy. It took Res Life a week to provide us alternative housing. 1/14/2025, Mercy Hall. Air smells of mold. Every couple of weeks, I get a 3-day-long phlegm-ridden cough. I keep no foodstuffs in the dorm, mind you. 10/1/2024, Central Campus Residence Hall. There's been a smell coming from our vent in our dorm like something died in there.
You can finish it if you want.
Can I
know
finish
it's
this
just-
one?
I know it's just one more sentence, so go ahead.
We've contacted...
Fair. Keep it fair.
All right.
Because they can talk to their sport.
Okay. Our next speaker is Iraz Kalajian, who will be followed by Benjamin Robke. And again, when we hit the 2 minutes, if folks have another sentence or two, we will let folks wrap up. So, and I'll apply that to everyone. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Iraz Kalajian. I'm also a representative of the Student Tenant Union of UVM. I'm going to continue. 10/1/24, Central Campus Residence Hall. This is the rest of it. We have an air purifier on blast all the time and windows open, but the smell is still horrible. 9/1/24, cottages. Every so often, for a few minutes at a time, the ceiling just starts pouring water down. The RA on duty called SOS, the UVM maintenance, who said it means the showers are overflowing and they'll only come out to fix it if it continues for more than 30 minutes in one go. 9/9/24, University Heights South. Even when my windows are closed, air still comes in when it's windy and sometimes rattles my shades and makes my room cold. I'm dreading to find out how awful this is going to be when the heavy winter settles in. 1/21/25, Living and Learning C. The hot water for my wing has stopped working twice in a week, and my room is so poorly insulated that it's constantly 7+ degrees below my suite's thermostat. 10/4/24, University Heights South. They decided to turn on the heat this past week, even though it's still 70 degrees outside. Even with the windows open and fans running, it's still quite hot in our room. It doesn't cool down during the night either. 12/4/24, Living and Learning. My suite's thermostat is at 72. Meanwhile, it's 64 in my room, below the allowed minimum temperature in the housing contract. And half the time, the heat just doesn't run at all. Bonus. The maintenance ticket platform has no form to report a non-urgent problem with the heating. I'm going to wait for this one because I am running low on time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Benjamin Robke, who will be followed by Ashley Adams.
Hi, my name is Ben Robke. I'm also a member of the Student Tenant Union. We're going to continue reading. October 2025, from Trinity campus. We submitted a request about a leak in our shower room at the beginning of the year. A worker came and took our ceiling tile, then said it was a roofing problem, even though it only leaked when people above us showered, and that he'd come back another day. Me and my suite mates all separately submitted requests for help, and they kept being sent back with notices that the order has been completed. Then, a mushroom started growing in the ceiling, so the worker's plan was just to cover it up with new waterproof tiles, which then caused the water to spread to the tile that has our sprinkler in it. Then they came back and took that tile. The ceiling has stopped leaking, but we're still missing a tile, so there's a hole where we can see the room above us a bit, and there are exposed wires. And as you can see in the image attached is the mushroom growing in these people's shower. Lastly, 11/18/2024 in Mercy Hall, a lot of mold, and as you can see an image attached of a lot of mold. The University of Vermont houses over 5,700 students. All we ask as representatives of the Student Tenant Union is that the City of Burlington considers us tenants to a landlord as they would tenants to any other landlord. The University of Vermont has gone a very long time without having to inspect its dorms. As you can see, they repeatedly refuse to fix very basic maintenance issues. Again, this would not fly for any other landlord. All we ask is for fairness. Thank you.
Thank you. I will also mention that, and this is the case for everyone, that if you have anything that you would like to submit in writing, we welcome your emailing it to citycouncil@burlingtonvt.gov. Our next speaker is Ashley Adams, who will be followed by Floyd Campbell.
Good evening. Thank you. You may have noticed people tabling outside City Hall this evening. Today is the International Day of Action on Big Biomass, a day in which over 220 organizations from 58 countries, along with climate scientists, ecologists, frontline communities, ratepayers, and concerned parents like me, are demanding an end to the insanity of sending our forests up in smoke. McNeil is the largest single source of climate pollution in Vermont. You've heard us repeat that many times. Emitting almost 5 times more carbon dioxide per megawatt hour than the ISO New England grid average. McNeil burns about 400,000 tons of chipped trees from New York and Vermont forests annually. This level of extraction has consequences, including habitat and biodiversity loss, reduced carbon sequestration and storage, and impaired flood mitigation. Tonight, you're considering a request to help fund a nature-based solutions coordinator, something I strongly support. The materials submitted indicate that the trees planted absorb about 48 pounds of carbon. To put this in perspective, McNeil sends an average of 400,000 tons or 800,000 pounds of CO2 into the atmosphere annually. So while I certainly support that position, I hope you'll recognize the massive scale of climate destruction that you're allowing to continue by keeping the McNeil biomass plant open. And with over $34 million in losses over the last 10 years, ratepayers are increasingly tired of paying a premium to fund climate destruction. Please put a plan in place to retire the McNeil plant by June 1st, 2028, and arrange a just transition for its 35 employees. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Floyd Campbell, who will be followed by Katie Irby.
Hello, Burlington City Councilors. My name is Floyd Campbell. I'm a student at the University of Vermont and member of the Student Government Association Committee on Community and Legislative Affairs. I'm here today for the same reason as most of my peers, because using UVM housing needs to be better. I personally experienced crowded dorms, dirty bathrooms, and many other issues. While UVM housing and dining does a lot, it is not enough. As a good example, it shouldn't have to take part of a dorm hall catching fire for transportation devices with lithium-ion batteries to be banned. Basic safety rules like this should have already been in place. Constituents within my housing complex have voiced mold in bathrooms, rodents in laundry rooms, and many other problems that make living on campus a serious challenge. The can keeps getting kicked down the road, and this issue keeps getting lost in bureaucracy. It's time to hold UVM accountable, and the City of Burlington must ensure the university housing is safe, sanitary, and comfortably livable. This isn't about just the current students. This is about the thousands who came before us, the thousands who will come after us, and we all deserve comfortable living conditions. We have an opportunity for change under the new administration, and that starts with putting student well-being first. Counselors, as public servants, we need you to ensure students' voices are protected and heard. It would be an insult to everyone who came here today to speak if the current system continues. It needs to be regulated, it needs to be following ordinances, and it needs to happen now. The time to act is now. Make it happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Katie Irby, who will be followed by Lawrence Seawill.
Hi, my name is Katie. I'm a senior at the University of Vermont, and I live in Ward 3, and I've come with a group of students who are curious to learn about our process of city government, and I share the concerns of the Student Tenant Union and some of the future, or the past speakers. We would like to call on the City Council to take action and help improve the conditions of the dorms at UVM. We know that students make up a really significant part of the city's culture and identity and economy, and we think they deserve the same housing rights as full-time residents. So, thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Lawrence Seawill, to be followed by Ezra Wilson.
Hello, my name is Lawrence Seawill, but I do recognize my handwriting's messy. I am a student here at UVM, and I have witnessed firsthand how horrendous the housing conditions are. You will hear many accounts tonight, you have heard many accounts tonight, but I just want to make it clear that we are your constituents, all of us, and we should matter to you. And I think that we have felt that we have been unseen, that we have been unrepresented, and I hope that with all of the people here tonight, you will finally see and hear us. Thank you. I yield my time.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Ezra Wilson, who will be followed by Adam Franz.
Do I tap in? Oh, no. Okay, perfect. Howdy, y'all. My name is Ezra, and I, too, am a student at UVM. I'm here today, along with dozens of other students representing thousands of students, to call on our elected officials to take meaningful action to address the unacceptable conditions that we have in the dorms at UVM. The university is not acting in the best interests of the safety or health of its students. For years, students have endured forced triples, overcrowded living conditions, and causing unnecessary stress. Beyond that, and perhaps much more concerningly, there have been well-documented reports of mold, inadequate heating and AC, water leaks, pests, you name it. And unfortunately, these issues are left unresolved for extended periods of time. Students deserve better than this. The university is failing to meet even the most basic standards of safe and livable housing, standards laid out in our city ordinance. In their failure, it is the responsibility of our city to take more action. We are here today to ask you all to take a stronger role in ensuring that UVM dorms are properly inspected, that housing standards are enforced, and that the health and well-being of students are protected. As others have said, students represent a vital part of our city's community and economy. Therefore, this issue affects not just students, but the values of Burlington as a whole, especially at a time when we're really concerned about how do we keep young people in the city. I hope that this becomes a priority for our city council going forward, working with the new administration, and I appreciate you all taking the time to listen to what we've had to say today, and for the Student Tenant Union who were able to bring those testimonies. So thank you again for your time, and I hope that you can work together to really make this city more safer and equitable for students. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Adam Franz, who will be followed by Brett Yates.
Hello, my name's Adam. I live right up the road on College Street in Ward 8. I'm not currently a UVM student. I graduated this year, but I did live in the dorms for 2 years, and I can speak a little bit about my experience. So first year, I lived in a 4-story dorm that did have locked elevators that were not accessible to the students, and without a working water fountain on my floor. The second year I lived on campus, I was in a forced triple that was under the legal limit for what is allowed for 3 people under the housing code. As a student worker organizer who helps the student worker union, in my third year I learned about RAs who were forced to wrangle wild animals such as opossums and told not to talk about it in public lest they risk not being rehired for the next year. Like many students, I assumed that this is just the way that things worked. But when I learned recently that UVM is exempt by ordinance from the regular permitting and inspections process, I realized that there was a path forward. While this is in our city's ordinances, I do think that the city has a duty to ensure that UVM housing meets the housing code. And I am inspired by what's going on tonight, what the Student Tenant Union is doing. A quarter of Burlington are UVM students. 3 wards and 2 districts cover campus, and the city has a responsibility to protect the rights of students in the same way that they do for every resident. And so most of you tonight are not UVM students. Many probably didn't even go to UVM, so you can be forgiven for not knowing what the conditions are on campus. I hope that you'll take what people have said tonight as reason enough to pursue actually addressing the needs of students on campus. Thank you.
Thank you. Our last Burlington resident here in City Hall is Brett Yates. We'll then turn to Burlington residents online. It'll be Sharon Busher.
Hello. Hi. I'm here again as the president of Partizanfilm Incorporated. We weren't quite clever enough to get our indoor entertainment application in at the same time as the liquor application, so we're on the agenda again tonight. But fortunately, that gives me another chance to give ourselves a little plug. We're the new nonprofit movie theater at 230 College Street. I think the last time I was here, I forgot to mention that we are expecting to open next month, and we'll be open daily, and we'd love for more people to become members. We're a cooperatively governed organization, and you can join at partizanfilm.org, partizanfilm.org. I'll again be around if you guys have any questions for me. Thanks a lot. Bye.
Thank you. The one Burlington resident we have signed up online is Sharon Busher. If Sharon could please be promoted here. We'll then come back to City Hall after Sharon to non-Burlington residents who are here in person, and the first non-Burlington resident will be Robert Perry. Do we see Sharon online? Okay. Sharon, you should be able to go ahead and unmute yourself. If you can wait a moment, I'm happy to put the timer up, but you're usually pretty good with this, so I'm also happy to keep the time here if you want to go ahead.
All right, well, keep track of me. All right.
Okay.
Good evening. I'm going to speak on two items. The first one has to do with the recycling item on your agenda. And if the council agrees to go to a 7-year contract, which is being proposed with Casella, then I believe that you must rebid to all the other haulers. It just would not be, wouldn't be the right thing to do, to just modify a contract and not rebid it. But 7 years to me feels that it's too long, and it will really cement the deal that we will have an outside hauler do not only recycling, but do our combined pickup. And the hauler chosen for recycling would almost be guaranteed the contract for combined. So those are my concerns. One item included in the recycling item has to do with a large housing complex that is opting out of recycling from the city system. And I do agree that there needs to be a way to get housing complexes to commit to city services. I feel this is not good and shouldn't be allowed. The next item has to do with item number 8. Currently, the authority to borrow for city, school, and BED is short-term with a payback within 1 to 2 years. This current proposal doesn't address payback period and the asks are much larger. My concern is there will be accumulation of debt. What will Moody's say about our rating with this added debt? I have a lot more to say, but time is of the essence. And it will be going to the Charter Change Committee. So thank you very much.
Thank you. As mentioned, we'll now return here to City Hall to non-Burlington residents here in person, and the first speaker will be Robert Perry, to be followed by Amy Kimmel.
Good evening. My name is Robert Perry. My partner and I own 54 Clark Street, which is nearly directly across the street from the Howard Center Needle Distribution Center. I'd like to thank and commend Councilors Litwin and Schachter for the hard work they put in on the CDNR to create the syringe litter recommendations on the consent agenda today. These recommendations seek to manage the vast flow of discarded needles, many unused and mostly provided by the Howard Center Safe Recovery Program. The Howard Center is the largest SSP in Burlington. It distributes tens of thousands of syringes every month with no consideration for the impact on its neighbors, the downtown, nor the city as a whole. It operates with disregard for the required guidelines and the law. Its recent decision to end pipe distribution came not for funding, but because distribution of drug paraphernalia other than syringes from an SSP is illegal under Vermont law. This illegal activity demonstrates the Howard Center's disregard for anyone other than a small cohort of drug abusers. The recommendations from the CDNR seek to establish governance on needle distribution programs. The recommendations also require the SSPs to bear the cost of needle cleanup, not the hardworking taxpayers of Burlington. These are completely reasonable goals. In all the Board of Health, NPA, City Council, and CDNR meetings I've attended, the sentiment of public comment has been that the city accepts far too much decay and civic unrest from drug abusers, and that the unlimited distribution of needles is one of the sources of the decay. Open drug use is being normalized under the banner of destigmatization, yet it is not normal. It is illegal for a reason. Burlington is a compassionate city, but like other compassionate cities, it now suffers from compassion fatigue. The city is fed up with the drug abusers defining the city, driving down the standard of living, making our streets unsafe, and damaging downtown businesses. The SSPs, the Howard Center in particular, with its uncontrolled and unmanaged distribution of needles, are enabling drug abuse and attracting drug abusers to the city. Compassion only goes so far. The CDNR recommendations are a start at getting control of these ungoverned programs and requiring the programs to bear the full cost, including cleanup of the programs. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Amy Kimmel, who will be followed by Karen Sita.
Hello. My name is Amy Kimmel, and I own 54 Clark Street with my partner, Rob Perry. First, I want to thank Councilors Litwin and Schachter for their commitment they showed to this very important work. I am especially appreciative that many of the recommendations move in the direction of holding the Howard Center accountable for the negative impact its needle distribution program is having on the city. Our property is across the street from the Howard Center needle program. My daughter lives in one of the units on our property. She shares firsthand daily accounts of the negative impact the Howard Center needle program is having on the neighborhood. Yesterday, she sent a video of someone shooting up in their car outside our property, then walking into the Howard Center to get more needles, then driving away. The Howard Center says the focus is on harm reduction. What about the risk this person is putting others in by driving while high? She was clearly high when she walked into the Howard Center, yet the Howard Center staff handed her more needles. A bartender is held accountable for over-serving someone. Where's the accountability for the Howard Center? I have spent more than 2 years communicating with the Howard Center, including their CEO. It has become very clear to me that the Howard Center is focused on reducing harm for the individuals they hand out needles to. They have never demonstrated any concern for the impact they are having on the neighborhood or the downtown community. It's time for this to end. The Howard Center has been allowed to run its needle distribution program how they felt it appropriate. This has resulted in discarded needles becoming normal sight in Burlington. The program needs more oversight to ensure the safety of all Burlington community members. We need harm reduction for all. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Karen Sita, who will be followed by our last speaker, Chris Gish.
You know, I'm a Taurus, so I typically mind my business. But y'all really tried me with that free speech announcement. Is this the things that I get, Mayor? For what I've been sparing her for all the stuff that she's done? You know, this whole week, we've been talking about
Point of order.
Point of order, no.
Point of
the
order.
whole time, no.
Please pause the timer, please.
They allowed black women to yell.
Please just
They
wait a
allowed a
moment.
black woman to yell at the
Karen,
mayor, so why can I not speak the truth
Karen,
once
I'm gonna
again?
give
Once
you your-
again.
I'm gonna give
you
you
guys
your
tried
time.
me on my
Karen,
free speech.
Karen, I'm going to give you
right.
your time.
All
We're
right.
going to pause.
Coming in hot, coming in hot.
Yeah, we're going to pause the timer.
Coming in
We
hot.
have a point of order, so I need to pause.
He's
for a
always
moment.
pointing of order, and then there's black
No,
people in
excuse me,
Palestine.
excuse
There's
me.
black people in Palestine, by the
Excuse me,
way.
Karen.
Just so you know, with that
Karen.
thing on your thing.
Excuse me.
Just letting him know.
Excuse me.
There's black
We're
people,
gonna-
and
we're
black
gonna-
women in Palestine.
Karen, we're going to give
I'm
you
just
an
letting
opportunity.
him know, because he's coming for me. You guys came for me, so I'm going to come for you. Because nobody told you to do this free speech announcement, so I'm coming for you.
I need
so
to
I'm a
pause.
citizen, and I have a right to free
I need to-
speech, and you guys made an announcement
You're going to have an
attacking a black
opportunity.
woman. Okay, great.
I need to pause for a moment. There's
Okay,
a
great.
point of
Coming
order
in
that
hot.
I have to pause to hear. So
Coming in
please, if you
hot.
could just give us a moment. Councilor Bergman?
Go ahead.
Thank you. Your rules that you stated are
Rules.
that they are to be, that the comments are to be directed to the president.
Oh,
That
yeah?
they are not to be personalized.
And then what about
And
the
in fact-
personal that you guys
and in
attacked
fact,
me?
they have
When
been
you attacked
broken
me.
consistently.
Why are you
right
mad at me?
now.
Why are you mad at
Please.
me? There's
Please,
black women in
please,
Palestine.
Ms. Sita,
There's
I
black
will-
women in
Ms. Sita,
Palestine. There's black
I
women
will
in
end-
Palestine, so watch your mouth. You're the one who did the free speech. You're the one who did the free speech
Ms.
when
Sita,
I, as a black
Ms. Sita,
woman, spoke.
Ms. Sita,
No,
if
no,
you
no, you're
don't-
not going to play me. We can do this all day. Where's Chocolate Thunder? Bring the security if they want. Where's Chocolate Thunder? Chocolate Thunder, because y'all made a free
Ms.
speech
Sita,
announcement
we're going to
against me.
conclude public forum.
Then we're gonna- I'm gonna sit here all
Public
day.
forum
Where's
at
the police?
6:55
Call the
p.m.
police.
We've
We're gonna
provided
do
you
it,
an
'cause I have a
opportunity
right
to
to
proceed
free
in
speech.
accordance with the rules. We are concluding public forum now at 6:55 p.m.
I'm sorry?
We provided you
Okay,
an
so when
opportunity
the black
to
woman came and yelled in front of the mayor, did you
Public
stop
forum
her?
has
All
ended.
of y'all were here when she yelled in front of the mayor. She yelled in front
Public
of the
forum
mayor.
is concluded
And
here.
nobody said
I will ask that
nobody
City
said
Hall please
anything.
come to
Nobody
order.
said anything.
I will ask
So when
that City
I'm
Hall please
speaking, it's
come
a
to order.
problem. When I'm
A
speaking, it's a
motion to
problem.
recess would be in order.
When I'm speaking, it's a problem.
Second.
You're the one who
Second.
did the free speech
All in
announcement.
favor,
See
please
how it
say
is?
aye.
When black
Aye.
women say,
Any opposed?
we're not going to play these
It's
games with
unanimous.
y'all,
The
then all of a
council's
sudden
now
it's a
in
problem.
recess, and we'll ask the
Oh,
Town
we're going to
Meeting
forgive
TV,
you? We're
please,
supposed to forgive because
go
we're
off the
black?
air. We will
Because
resume-
we're
we will
black?
resume
We're going to
when
do it,
City Hall
baby.
comes to order.
Chocolate Thunder, where you at? Because they made a free speech announcement against me for speaking my truth, and then all of a sudden now they don't. Okay, there we go. I'm here all night, baby. I'm here all night. Because you really tried it. You really tried it. I'm a Taurus. I'm a bull. I'm a bull. We can really do this. Because how dare you? How dare you make a free speech announcement?
All right. The council will come back to order. We'll ask the City Hall, please come to order. Are we good on Town Meeting TV? All right, thank you. So we did still have another speaker in the queue after Ms. Sita, with a reminder again of the rules about no individualized attacks If there is a point of order from anyone on the council, we do need to pause at that point in time. We will pause the timer. Folks will get their full 2 minutes, but we do need an opportunity to work through those issues. I will, in my discretion as chair, reopen public forum at this time, and we will hear from Ms. Sita. Ms. Sita, you will have 2 minutes, and then we will hear from Chris Gish. A reminder, though, to please act in accordance with the rules as I've described them. Otherwise, I will reserve the right at that point in time to end public forum for the evening.
Rule follower, you know me. All right, I was just quoting Nicki Minaj, where she said very clear, is this the thanks that I get for putting you on? Is it my fault that all of you are gone? You should have said a thank you note. You little, woo! All right, once again, I came in defense of a black woman, and then the next week, this city council did a free speech announcement attacking a Taurus, a bull. Very bold, and clearly I'm bold too, because I'm here, okay? This is the thanks that I get for not you know what, right now they're talking about Republicans, and all this texting. If you knew who these people really are, okay? If I was on my Cat Williams and sat down and really told you, Cat Williams, I should say, sat down and really told you how these people are, you would understand why they come for me. You would understand why they are, because they know they're evil. And I don't have any time for evilness in our city. So yes, I fight hardcore, because the Queen City is a holy city, and it's full of people of joy and laughter, and we don't allow evil people to come in here and play with the games, okay? And one thing about me, anytime a woman is bold, anytime she wants to speak up for herself, she's crazy. But Farine Paris's ass, when she was here yelling at the mayor, she wasn't crazy. Nobody called her crazy. But when I'm speaking up and saying, why is our city falling apart every week, all of a sudden there's something wrong with her. Honey, I went to Harvard, okay? College educated. So I don't know what this whole, a girl can speak her mind, a girl can be feminine, a girl can be boss, a girl can be whatever she wants to be. A girl can address her mayor and tell her this is not cool, okay? And I've been sparing her from all the stuff that I know that she has done behind the scenes. So instead of being grateful, I'm dealing with the ungrateful. Like Mother Teresa, we the unwilling, are dealing with the ungrateful. So you know what, once again, I'm gonna continue to speak my mind. I don't care what you say. Israel is free. Our president was black. Now our president is orange, but he's making progress. Vote red, continue to fight for who you wanna be, and don't let these people bring you down. Diva, a diva is a female version of a hustler. Been that girl, been it.
Our last speaker will be Chris Gish.
Thanks, everybody. My name's Chris Gish. I don't make it to City Council as much now that I live in Richmond, but I lived many years in Burlington, and I came back today to celebrate the International Day of Action Against Big Biomass with the group of people who are tabling outside, and I just wanted to say a few words. I know all of you have heard about McNeil. I know for a fact over the last few years, because local people here in Burlington have waded through decades of confusion and misinformation to make this an issue, but we still haven't seen a lot of progress on it. So I want to kind of give you 3 invitations today related to McNeil. And the first one is that if we find ourselves in a hole, the first thing we need to do is stop digging. And we're certainly in a hole collectively, and I put myself in that box too, because I'm a Green Mountain Power ratepayer, so I have a personal financial stake in the McNeil plant as well as BED ratepayers. And the plant has lost about $34 million, at least $34 million in the last 10 years. It's 41 years old. It's older than the Moran plant, when the Moran plant was retired by quite a bit. There's no future we can imagine for this plant where it's gonna be breaking less or have less deferred maintenance or be more economically viable, and we need to face that reality and start investing in alternatives. And the second thing I want to invite you to do is that when you hear things from BED management about McNeil, add the phrase, I want you to believe, in front of everything. When they say that, when you're told that the financial losses of the plant don't actually matter because, for example, BED makes a tax in lieu payment to the city of Burlington, add, I want you to believe, in front of that, because a tax in lieu payment is not the same as ratepayers propping up this plant. Like, if my electric bill is going up, I don't say, oh, that's okay because the city of Burlington is getting a tax in lieu payment. Those two things are not the same. And same, add the phrase, I want you to believe, when you hear that Burlington is a leader in solar. Burlington has 6% of the state's electric load and only 1.8% of its net metered solar because we choose to invest in McNeil instead of clean renewables. Thank you.
Thank you. So we will now conclude the reopened public forum at 7:07 p.m. Mayor, the next item on the agenda is Mayor General City Affairs, but we had also warned the City Council with Mayor presiding for 7 p.m. Does it make sense to you that we briefly recess the City Council for that at this point in time? We also have a Cannabis Control Commission meeting at 7:15, so if I could offer a suggestion, we would go to City Council, Mayor presiding, then the Cannabis Control Commission, and then resume the City Council meeting at Mayor General City Affairs. Does that work for you, Mayor?
That works for me. Let me get to the right agenda here.
So we will recess the City Council meeting at 7:08 p.m. And Mayor, I will turn the floor to you for the City Council with Mayor presiding.
Thank you very much. I'm going to call to order the City Council meeting with Mayor presiding at 7:08 p.m. on Tuesday, October 21st. Our first item is the agenda. Is there a motion on the agenda?
Move to adopt the agenda.
Moved by Councilor Travers. Is there a second? Seconded by Councilor Bergman. Any discussion before we vote on the agenda? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Motion carries unanimously. Our second item is the consent agenda. Is there a motion on the consent agenda?
Move to adopt the consent agenda and take the actions indicated.
Moved by Councilor Travers. Is there a second? Second. Seconded by Councilor Schachter. Any discussion before we vote? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Motion carries unanimously. On to our first deliberative item, item 3.1. These are appointments to two different commissions, one board, one commission tonight. Item 3.1 is a conservation board position, term expiring June 30th of 2027. Just briefly for members of the public, because I'm sure the council is very familiar with our process for now. We first take nominations from the floor, and then we take the vote based on the order of nominations from the floor. If a candidate, a nominee, receives enough affirmative votes for the open positions, we then move on to the next deliberative item. If there's a nominee in the room when we are, after a nomination, who would like to address the council and mayor, we will welcome that from the person. Again, if they're present, it's not required. And then we will proceed if someone doesn't receive enough affirmative votes to a second nominee. So first, on the opening for our Conservation Board term expiring June 30th of 2027, is there a nomination? Councilor Grant.
I'll nominate Alan Richard, if I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Thank you, Councilor Grant. I'm not sure of the pronunciation, but we apologize if we're getting this wrong. So there's a nomination from Alan Richard. Is Alan here? Hi, Alan. Would you like to say a couple words to the council? Sure. You're welcome to come to the big table if you'd like. Just introduce yourself.
Okay, I wasn't
Welcome, and just make sure
to say
that
anything, but
it's really not expected. So you can say just introducing yourself, and just make sure that the microphone is on with the green. I can't see through the water pitcher anyway. It's a new mic for you, so it should be just on. Yes?
All
Okay,
right.
great. Welcome.
Hi, thanks for letting me speak. My name is Alan Richard. I know that's a strange last name. I honestly just would like to serve the city in some capacity, and I'm a big believer in conservation, and I thought that I could, I don't know, contribute in some positive way to building on conservation efforts by the city, and maybe, I don't know, teach kids or something along those lines. I'm a teacher, so anyway, that's basically it.
That's more than enough, Alan. Thank you very much. We appreciate you putting yourself up for a nomination.
Yeah.
Is there any further discussion by the council before we go to a vote? Councilor Travers.
Yeah, I just want to thank Alan for submitting his application. My understanding is you're a Ward 5 resident, Alan, and I did connect with members of the Conservation Board with respect to your application. I know they're excited about the varied experience that you would bring to the board. I think that they believe that you'll bring some different perspectives with your background here, and I think it will be a really added contribution. So I appreciate your stepping up.
Thank you so much.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, I will ask the clerk to call the roll.
Counselor Barlow?
Yes.
Counselor Bergman?
Yes.
Counselor Broderick?
Yes.
Counselor Carpenter?
Yes.
Counselor Grant?
Yes.
Counselor Kane?
Yes.
Counselor Litwin?
Yes.
Counselor Newbeezer?
Yes.
Counselor Schachter?
Yes.
Counselor Singh?
Yes.
City Council President Travers?
Yes.
Mayor Mulvaney Stanek?
Yes.
Twelve ayes, one absent.
Thank you. And with that, congratulations. You are appointed to the Conservation Board, and we appreciate your service.
As a point of order, just Councilor Newbeezer is online there, so if he was called, then he would get a chance to vote, and then we would have a
Councilor
full
Bergman,
slate.
hold on, is that a point of,
That was a point of order.
A point of
because-
order?
Yes.
so we did have Councilor Newbeezer vote.
Did he?
Yes.
So who was that?
He
Oh,
voted
Cat-
affirmatively. We don't have
I'm
a-
sorry, I made a mistake. I apologize to
That's
us
okay.
all for that.
And next time we say point of order. Mayor, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Okay. All right. So back to you, Alan. Congratulations. Thank you very much. Unanimous vote from those present. So thank you again. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay. Appreciate the points, though, Councilor Bergman. All right, moving on to, it's all right, item 3.2. We're moving on to our commission for our Electric Light Commission, which is also known as the Burlington Electric Department. First, are there any nominations? Councilor Barlow.
I nominate Brian Williams.
Nomination for Brian Williams. Is Brian here today? And it's okay, and again, okay if people are not here. Is there discussion on the nomination of Brian Williams?
I would just add that Brian is a constituent of mine. He's very engaged in city politics. He shows up at the Bagel regularly, to the mayor's meetup, and many of the Wednesday morning meetings we have, and he's asked a lot of insightful questions about a number of city topics, and he has a particular interest in serving on the Electric Commission. So I'm happy to appoint him.
Thank you, Councilor Barlow. Councilor Newbeezer.
Sorry, I was going to nominate someone else, but I realized we might still be in discussion.
We are in discussion on the first nomination, which is for Brian Williams. So if anyone has discussion on Brian Williams, that is what we will be in order. Councilor Litwin.
Thanks. I'll be brief because Councilor Barlow put it nicely, but I just want to thank Brian Williams for applying. He's come to a couple of my things and has a lot of knowledge around the energy sector. He has a 40-year career that I think will be an invaluable asset to the Electric Commission should he be appointed.
Any further discussion on the nomination on the floor? Seeing none, can the clerk please call the roll?
Counselor Barlow?
Yes.
Counselor Bergman? No. Counselor Broderick?
No.
Counselor Carpenter?
Yes.
Counselor Grant?
No.
Counselor Kane?
No.
Counselor Litwin?
Yes.
Counselor Newbeezer?
No.
Counselor Schachter?
Yes.
Counselor Singh?
Yes.
City Council President Travers?
Yes.
Mayor Mulvaney Stanek?
Yes.
7 ayes, 5 nays, 1 absent.
Thank you. And with 7 votes, that is the required threshold to receive the nomination to our Burlington Electric Department Commission, technically called the Electric Light Commission in our charter. Thank you very much, Brian, for serving, and we look forward to your good work for BED. And with no other positions open and no other items on our deliberative agenda, we can adjourn the City Council meeting with Mayor presiding at 7:16 p.m.
Thank you, Mayor. Before resuming the City Council meeting, we will call to order our meeting as the Local Cannabis Control Commission at 7:16 p.m. And Commissioner Broderick, as Chair of our License Committee, could I turn to you for a motion on our agenda?
I moved to adopt the agenda as indicated on Civic Clerk.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Singh. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Are any opposed? That is unanimous. Commissioner Broderick, may I turn to you for a motion on our consent agenda?
I move to adopt the consent agenda and take the actions indicated.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Schachter. Is there any discussion on that item? Seeing none, we'll go to a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That carries unanimously. Seeing no other business before the Local Cannabis Control Commission, absent objection, we will adjourn that meeting at 7:17 p.m. and now resume our City Council meeting at that same time. And Mayor, as mentioned before, the next item on our agenda is Mayor General City Affairs. And when you're ready, the floor is yours.
Thank you, President Travers. I'd like to first begin with a Parks Department update for folks. I know this has been of interest of councilors as well as members of the community, so I have a number of highlights for folks, for which we will also come back with a more robust update at a later date. As folks know, we've been having a trident of leaders who are currently division heads within the department, leading our department since we had a vacancy as of July 1st. We're concluding our director search process, which I'll come back to at the end of my mini parks update, but I want to make sure folks here and in the public know where we are with programming. So first of all available recreation programming is published on our current website for that department, and that's where people go to see schedules and sign up and what current active programming is happening, including adult programming in the city. The Miller Center, which is in our new North End, is currently closed at nights and weekends, except for, of course, the Wards 4 and 7 MPAs. That's because we are currently working on staffing to make sure that we have more availability for staffing in the evenings. Parks is currently hiring for that staffing a part-time customer associate at the Miller Center, and this is because we had an unexpected departure when someone decided that role was not for them early in September, which was unexpected. So that's why we have an unexpected issue with our hours of operation for the Miller Center. I want to emphasize that adult programming, except for things related to athletics and ice skating, is the only portion of, I should say it the other way around. Athletics and ice skating related to adult program is happening. Other more minor programming, such as astrology, ukulele, and line dancing are the things that are currently paused. I think that's really important for folks to understand what's paused and what are sort of the ongoing, I think, more robustly used programming that is offered by the city. Again, I want to bring people back to the website to see what is actively being offered for folks. We, of course, offer a lot more athletic programming for all ages, including seniors and young folks and everyone in between. But I just wanted to clarify what is currently paused due to staffing and some reorganization of what we're able to continue to provide. We've been working very closely with the Heineberg Center, for which has come frequently to the council to talk about senior programming in particular. And our Parks Department, my office, and Heineberg have been working closely to establish a first-time MOU with that organization, which provides critical services for our seniors, not only in Burlington, but for other surrounding communities, as we can transition our former core program and those participants to the Heineberg Center. We're finalizing that MOU, and we'll have that done shortly for the city and Heineberg to guide our work together. And finally, as I mentioned before, as we look at our recreation offerings, our parks leadership team right now is creating a proposal to revamp that in the spirit of our core service work that we did, our service inventory last winter ahead of our budgeting process. They're looking very critically at what we offer, what we should continue to offer based on best use in our community and what's being provided elsewhere. For example, yoga is provided elsewhere. And how do we make sure we have the staffing and sustainability so we can make sure we staff our Miller Center, our Letty Arena, as well as the programming that's most meaningful to the community. The department plans to present that to me in November, and we'll be back to the council soon after that. And this will time with our hiring process with the department director. And as I don't know why I bookended it, but the very good news is that we have a final candidate that we've made the offer to. We will be announcing that candidate tomorrow to staff internally first, and then to the public on Thursday. So we're very encouraged by this candidate, and I'll have a lot more to say in the next 2 days. So thank you for your patience on our Parks Department. Moving on to community safety, I want to first start by a very big thank you to our Burlington Fire Department and our partnership with the Colchester Technical Rescue and the Winooski Fire Department. They did a rescue operation on the Winooski River today. Everyone is accounted for and safe, and it was swift and very good work to make sure that someone who was trapped on one of the islands in the middle of that river was able to be brought back to the riverbanks. So I really appreciate their hard and diligent work. Also related to community safety, as folks probably read, literally the day after your last council meeting, I couldn't say because we were in negotiations with the governor, but I met with the governor. He came to the city, and we were talking. Began discussions on a number of items related to community safety and the needs here in Burlington in great detail. We're continuing to work back and forth on the details of that overall comprehensive plan, and we should have more news later this week. But the biggest component that pretty immediately came out a few days later is a new special court. It's a pilot called the Community Accountability Court. This is something that the governor's office and the judiciary are standing up. This is city adjacent, but it doesn't require city government work per se in the details of it all. But it's a special court, literally courtroom for individuals who've been identified who have 5 or more pending cases within our county. This is important for not only helping to clear the backlog of cases, which you've heard me often talk about, but to also strategically focus on folks who we really need to have a new accountability system for, who are facing those multiple charges. There is a special judge who's been appointed, a special prosecutor who came from the state's attorney's office in Washington County, as well as a designated public defender. We're really looking forward to seeing how this plays out. And of course, I want to emphasize that we want to make sure our accountability system works, that really improves the ultimate outcomes for individuals and not just put people in prison because as a default, because incarceration is not ultimately the solution. We see this time and time again. And we want to make sure that we're diligently using our court system and our other services that can get to the root causes of why people are violating our municipal laws or state laws in the first place. So we'll look forward to more on that as the court gets up and started. Its first day was yesterday, I believe. ISCP, which is the firm we've hired to support us with the police chief hiring process for the permanent chief, will be in Burlington next week and meeting with members of my administration as well as other folks in our community for those stakeholder meetings I was talking about before a few council meetings ago. So we're looking forward to launching that work. We're currently translating this community survey I've mentioned before, and when that is done, we'll have that out to the community. You'll be able to interface with that in multiple places, including at my mayor meetups. We're working to organize a second community safety forum with our partners at UVM for students and families, and hope to schedule that within the next couple of weeks or so with the new UVM president. Last week, we signed our final contract with our firefighters represented by the BFFA. It's always a good moment when we can come together and reflect months of good bargaining and back and forth to make sure that we have competitive wages and really support not only firefighters who are in our department now, but investing in the future firefighters and that we can retain them, make sure that we can do strategic hires that are laterals who can come in and have prior experience, and again, just investing in these critical first responders in our community. Moving on to climate for a moment, for the last several months, we've had a team of community members and city staff, 24 or so of them total, including 2 counselors here, Councilor Newbeezer and then Councilor Becca Brown-McKnight, to working on how the city can identify immediate and actionable items that are filling gaps in our climate strategy. More miscellaneous items before I talk a little bit about what's been happening in the community. We welcomed last week to my office Jen Monroe Zakaris, who is the new Deputy Chief of Staff in my office, which is the Communications Director role and stand-in when my Chief of Staff is not available. She comes with a lot of strong, not only communication skills, but holds a master's in public health, and I think is well situated to support my office with the kinds of complexities we're facing on community safety and community health in particular. Last week, we were also visited in Burlington by our Bloomberg Harvard colleagues, which is part of the City Leadership Initiative. This is the year-long program I was selected to participate in alongside 47 other mayors from around the world to receive the support to accelerate a particular initiative. And again, that initiative is how Burlington can build ample, affordable housing and really think about that in innovative ways. They are an accelerator team, and they asked us to build a city team, and I want to name these individuals because it shows you the breadth and cross-department efforts this will be to help us really make an impact on our housing strategy. The team is being led by Sarah Morgan from our planning office, supported by Nancy Stetson, who is now within DFA, but works as our senior data analyst. Julie Ursuka from our Department of Public Works, Kara Alarswari, who is our CEDO director, Charles Dillard, our planning director, Kelly Perkins, our REIB director, Will Covell, who serves in CEDO, and Ita Meno, and they work in the Burlington Electric Department. This is a great cross-section of both senior leadership and folks sort of in the mid-level of the city, purposely designed to help us really think outside the box and think about how we can activate new parts of our housing strategy that have not necessarily been tried before in Burlington and break out of sort of some status quo thinking. I'm excited about their work ahead. One small just update on mayor meetups. We have for months now we've pretty much had no one attending the Central District meetup for some reason. We've tried different times, we've tried different strategies. We've surveyed the Central District. So we're going to move what was usually been the second Tuesday of the month, 5:30 standing meeting to a Zoom meeting. We'll see if the virtual component makes it easier for folks to participate. You know, parents at home with small kids starting dinner to Zoom in. We'll see how that goes for a pivot. All the other mayor meetups will remain the same, and we'll just keep experimenting to make sure Central District continues to have, of course, a mayor meetup option. Our planning team is going out on the road already to the MPAs to bring the Plan BTV 2050 comprehensive plan effort to residents to get your feedback. They're also doing city-based workshops. 2 are coming up. Well, one just happened actually yesterday. The other one's on October 30th. The comprehensive plan is an opportunity for folks to give feedback on the kind of city you want in 10 years, over the next 10 years. How do you want it to feel, to be? How does the public space, what do you think we should do with public space? Input you want to give on housing, parks, etc. And this round, this is required every 10 years under state law for municipalities in Vermont, but this time in Burlington, we're trying to integrate our planning comprehensive plan, transportation planning, as well as this overall comprehensive plan often led by planning, so that all of our plans can talk together, so that we're not sort of siloing off any of the visioning and intentional planning work needed for the city, especially as we think about our planning, our housing, and our climate needs over the next 5 to 10 years. On to just some community quick updates. As folks probably read after the fact, we were able to welcome warmly Supreme Court Justice Sonia Sotomayor yesterday at UVM. It was a really wonderful event I was able to attend. She gave some great words of wisdom to the students up at UVM, but more largely talking about the times we're living in and the state of law and what's at risk and the worry that many of us are holding about what does this mean for the fundamental rights and the fundamental integrity of our democracy. And so it's just really wonderful to be able to sit alongside the governor and welcome her warmly to Vermont. She also made herself available to local elementary school kids, which was quite the surprise, including some kids from the Sustainability Academy who got to personally meet her, get books signed by her. She's a very generous person, and I hope she comes back to Vermont again. This weekend, too, if you're into bikes, 2 important events to know about. In Leddy Park, our mountain bike path will have its grand opening on Saturday at 10 a.m. You should come check that out. Also on this weekend, on Sunday, there is our 16th annual Roll and Stroll event led by our Parks Department. Meetup is at City Hall Park at 2 o'clock, and that is a citywide bike loop that folks do, and it's a lot of fun with costumes and all sorts of other things. In our Department of Finance and Administration, we are wrapping up hosting a fellow who came to us from the State Department. Her name is Vin Dueg, and I hope I said that correctly, Vin. She's been a great asset to our department. She's from the Philippines. Sadly, the State Department role is pending funding or pausing its funding, giving again the federal chaos. But what Vin was able to do was really help accelerate what do we do to increase all resident voting. As folks remember, non-citizens can vote in local matters here in Burlington, and she had a keen interest in studying that and supporting DFA, putting a strategy forward to increase the potential for folks to be able to register and feel comfortable voting in our local matters. The Generator, which is a local nonprofit, I'll wrap up on this, opened a new electronics lab, which is a really exciting moment as that organization continues to evolve over the last 10 years, because it's a great activator space for not only adults, but youth as well. And if you haven't checked out the Generator, it's in the South End. They do a lot of great community partnerships with folks who are into manufacturing and other matters, but it's a great incubator space for adults and youth alike, and it was great to be able to help them. It wasn't even technically a ribbon. They cut a very large electrical cord, because that's more their style, their vibe. But it's great to see this kind of creativity that is happening in our city, and opportunities again for our youth, which I don't think we have nearly enough of. And with that, I'll pause on that. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Mayor. The next item on our agenda is the consent agenda. Is there a motion to adopt the consent agenda? So moved by Councillor Carpenter. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councillor Schachter. Any discussion on that item? We'll go to a vote then. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Are any opposed? That carries unanimously. We'll turn now to our deliberative agenda. The first few items in our deliberative agenda are permit-related items, and Councillor Broderick, again, as chair of our license committee. If okay by you, I'm going to turn to you for some motions on a couple of these items. The first item is item 5.1, indoor entertainment permit application for Partizanfilm, 230 College Street, Unit 13.
Thank you. I would move to approve the 2025-2026 indoor entertainment permit application for Partizanfilm, 230 College Street, Unit 13, with the following conditions. All city permits need to be closed out and with all standard conditions.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councillor Schachter. Any discussion on that motion? Councillor Bergman.
Just consistent with my action last meeting, because I'm a member of the co-op, I'm going to recuse myself from not only the vote, but the conversation.
Thank you, Councillor Bergman. Any further comments on this item? All right, we'll go to a vote then. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? That is unanimous among those voting, noting Councillor McKnight's absence and Councillor Bergman's recusal. Councillor Broderick, may I turn to you for a motion on item 5.2?
I would move to approve the 2-day only special event entertainment permit application for Muddy Waters, 184 Main Street, November 1st to 2nd, 2025, 8 p.m. to 2 a.m., live DJ event.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councillor Singh. Any discussion on this item? We'll go to a vote then. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Are any opposed? That is unanimous. And Councillor Broderick, may I turn to you for a motion on item 5.3?
I would move to approve the 2025-2026 tobacco license application for Catamount Tobacco and Convenience LLC, 75 Church Street.
Thank you. Is there a second on this item?
Second.
Seconded by Councillor Schachter. Any discussion on this item? All in favor then, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That is unanimous. Thank you, Councillor Broderick and Councillor Schachter, for your work on the License Committee. And to Lori Olberg for receiving these applications and getting them on our agenda. Our next item is item 5.4. It's an appointment made by the City Council to the Winooski Valley Park District. I will open the floor now to any nominations to the Winooski Valley Park District. Councillor Schachter?
Yes, I would like to nominate Catherine Bach.
Thank you. Is there any other nomination? Are there any other nominations for the Winooski Valley Park District? All right. We have a nomination for Catherine Bach. Is Catherine Bach here in person or online? Catherine, if you're online and want to address the council, please use the raise hand function. Are there any councilors with any comments on this nomination? Councillor Schachter?
Yeah, I'll just say a few really quick words. Catherine is a constituent in Ward 1 and just a real active member of this community. She and I have gone on really lovely strolls down along the Winooski River, and I know how much she cares about this land and also holds a lot of knowledge about environmentalism and stewardship and has a lot of our shared values that I think many of us in this community have. So I think she will be a great addition to this board.
Thank you. Are there any other comments on this nomination? All right. We will try a voice vote then. All in favor of the nomination of Catherine Bach to the Winooski Valley Park District, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Are any opposed? That is unanimous. Congratulations to Catherine, and thank you for your willingness to serve. Our next item is item 5.5, request to execute a ground lease agreement with Beta Technologies. I know that we're joined by officials from Leahy BTV here. And Director Longo, would you like to present to the council first before we take a motion on this item?
Whichever you prefer. I can definitely talk.
Sure. I know that you had a brief presentation to the Board of Finance, and if you have a presentation here, we'd be happy to give you the floor first, and then we'll likely turn to Councilor Barlow as Chair of the TOOC for a motion on this item.
Great, perfect. I will be very brief. I'll start with the fact that both the Airport Commission and now the Board of Finance has reviewed and unanimously approved this particular lease. This lease agreement is with Beta Technologies, which I believe many of you know about. We have a long history of the particular space that we're talking about, and we've advertised this space for a few years now with no interested parties until Beta Technologies requested to build on this particular space. We call it Area 5. We've attached the public notification and the map associated with why this is called Area 5, and Beta would like to build a hangar to support their mission and their aircraft fleet. It is currently a vacant plot of land. There's nothing on it today. Our fair market values are identified through a fair market value analysis, which is that 50 cents a square foot annual rate. Beta, of course, has been with the airport since 2019. They have multiple leases with us. This one, Area 5, is zoned appropriately for it. It is zoned air or airport per South Burlington zoning regulations. It does not impact any natural areas or wetlands. The Development Review Board with South Burlington has reviewed the concept of this particular hangar that's being proposed on this lease area. But essentially, this is a very simple ground lease with the following terms, and this is Marie Friedman. She's our Director of Finance at the airport.
Thank you. I'll discuss the terms. So this is going to be a 30-year term for the lease. The term is going to actually start when the lease is after the approval, and after the lease gets signed, the lease signing date will become the effective date of the lease. The rate is 50 cents per square foot. This is a small area, so that is going to amount to $13,672 annually a year on the rent, on the ground rent. At the end of the lease, the building reverts over to the airport, and I just thought I would mention that. Or we can ask them to remove it if that's what we wanted to do. And the final thing I wanted to mention is that we also require a capital reserve to be part of this, and that means that they're going to be funding a capital reserve account, and that means that there is the funds that are necessary to keep up and maintain the building along the way. So if things have to be done or need to be done that are expensive in nature, they can be maintained along the way. So at the end of the terms, we have a very good, well-maintained building.
And Council President Traverse, I think that was 3 minutes of a brief overview, and our recommendation and request tonight is to approve this ground lease. Thank you.
Great. Before turning it to the council for any questions or feedback, Councilor Barlow, could I turn to you as Chair of the TOOC for a motion on this item?
Certainly. I would move to authorize the mayor of the city of Burlington to execute the lease with Beta Technologies at Patrick Leahy Burlington International Airport, subject to final review and approval by the city attorney's office, and to take such further actions and execute such further instruments approved as to form by the city attorney's office as may be necessary or convenient to effectuate the transactions contemplated hereby.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilor Singh. Councilor Barlow, do you want the floor on this item?
I do not. I did ask a number of questions at Board of Finance, and I had discussions with Director Longo, and I'm satisfied with this. So I'm supportive.
Are there any other councilors with questions or comments on this item? Councilor Singh.
Thank you, Council President. I wanted to thank Director Longo for taking the time to speak to me about the lease. You know, for those in the public out there hearing 50 cents a square foot, you know, it was brought to my attention by Director Longo that, you know, the FAA dictates a lot of the leasing terms on airport land, that it's right now dictated at 42 cents per square foot, and we're getting 50 cents, so that's good to hear. I also expressed to Director Longo, and he explained to me about how there's an economic plan that's being done at the airport, which I think is very valuable to the city moving forward, because as Beta begins their expansion, the value of the land on the airport property and adjacent properties is going to become very important, whether it be for supply chain, suppliers, other vendors that'll be servicing Beta in their manufacturing. I think it's really important that the city understands what the values of those lands are, and as we look for tenants or as people come to possibly use that land, and it's, you know, which will be a greater utility going forward, I think that's really important for the city to keep an eye on, and I really appreciated the time and the knowledge that Director Longo was able to, you know, give to me today, and I think it's important that the public hear those things as the expansion goes forward.
Thank you, Councillor Singh. Is there any other councillor that wants to be recognized on this item? Councillor Bergman.
I'm sorry that I didn't focus on this. I had some other things that I was focusing on. So how old is this building?
So there is no building.
There is no building. So this is going to be a new building, and
Beta
they are
is
going to be putting this, the capital reserve fund that should be able to deal with it for, you know, come the end of the term, which you said was 30 years?
Correct.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
that's a requirement of the lease that Beta put into an account with our name and their name, a capital reserve.
And I because I was late to this game, I didn't find it in my scrolling. So how much is that, or how is that going to be funded, the capital reserve?
So it's dictated by a capital reserve assessment that still has to be completed to make sure we fund the account appropriate to the capital that's put into the building.
So that's still to be determined.
That's
so we're
correct.
giving you the authorization to continue that along with our attorney to make that commercially reasonable. Okay. That's good because we need to have that. It's good that it's a new building so that ostensibly it will not be falling apart and that fund will be sufficient. Thanks.
That's right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bergman. Does any other councillor want to be recognized on this item? All right, seeing none, we'll go to a vote on the motion. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? That carries unanimously. Thanks to you, Director Longo, and your team, as well as to our partners at Beta.
Thank you.
Our next item is item 5.6. This is an information item, no action this evening, but we know it's a public interest, and this is regarding the residential recycling collection and RFPQ process update. On this item, we're joined by DPW Director Chapin Spencer and Division Director Lee Perry. And Director Spencer, whenever you're ready, we'll turn the floor to you to kick us off.
Great. I'm clearly not up to speed on the new microphone here. All right, I'm going to pass it off to Division Director Lee Perry to kick this off, and then I will bring it home.
Thanks for having us here tonight to discuss recycling. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Good. So as it stated in the memo, we've had some challenges with recycling over the past 5 years or so. Currently, we have 1 staff member out of 4 in recycling. Our first female staff member, and she is rocking it in recycling, doing really well. We have received some other applicants, but we are still supplementing recycling with streets employees. In July, we received council direction to post an RFPQ as well as develop a fully funded recycling budget for the recycling program. Excuse me. In July, we posted our RFPQ to the city website, as well as also sending it directly to every hauler that is licensed in the city of Burlington to collect waste. August 18th, we received one RFPQ from Casella. They bid on a 5-year contract. The RFPQ was for a 3 to 5 year contract. They chose to just bid on the 5-year contract. The way that contract was structured was using 13,000 residential units to bid the city's collection. We received a quote of $129,567 a month, which works out to around $11.70 per RDU. After we received the quote, we discussed it internally. Casella did reach out, asked how their numbers were. I told them we received them, we're reviewing them. They asked if they could meet with staff to go over the RFPQ. So I met with Casella staff, and some of the indicators as to why they felt that this RFPQ cost was high were the contract term was too short. 5 years wouldn't give them enough time to amortize their capital investments. The scope was relatively small, just collecting recycling. They would still have other trucks in similar routes or same routes, still collecting trash, and the initiation window was too short. About 2.5, 3 month time frame would not allow them enough time to get the capital they would need. They would have to rent trucks specific to collect recycling in Burlington, being the side tipping carts, the same trucks we have. Most of their trucks are, if not all of them, are automated and semi-automated, meaning they have the arm that comes out. It's not conducive to picking up recycling in our dense neighborhoods with all the on-street parking. So we did a full cost comparison between our developed recycling budget and Casella's. And as it's noted, the city could continue to do recycling at $10.59 per RDU, and that is with the cost of 201 Flat Avenue debt service removed from our budget, as well as landfill maintenance costs. So it's just a pure apples to apples. We're just collecting recycling, not maintaining anything else. Casella's price was $12.89. Another note with the RFPQ is we wanted to make it as streamlined as possible, just collect the recycling, so we would still continue to pay the tip fees for the recycling, which is paid at the materials recovery facility. So once we added that cost back into Casella's cost, brought it up, made them both equal, and that's where we came up with the $12.89 price. Later in the memo, you'll see where we came up with another cost. For Casella, it lowered it, or increased it actually, was because when we budget off of 11,800 RDUs, which is how many residential units that the current haulers are collecting in the city. So I keep track of that every month and average it out throughout the year, and that's how we base our budget for recycling on. And Chapin, you want to take over?
Great. So with that information, we had approached the administration, we had approached the union, we talked to the Transportation, Energy, and Utilities Committee very quickly and indicated that we were trending towards a recommendation of keeping recycling in-house. A few days after that, we received communication from Casella seeking to meet with us. And as I laid out in the memo, they asked if we would be receptive to a price quote on a 7-year term with a year-long initiation, basically addressing some of the concerns that Lee has just spelled out with the challenge of our initial RFPQ, the request for price quotes. We said we would be willing to see what they put forward. They put forward a price quote that we felt was quite competitive. We have not shared that information because if the council and the administration seek to put this out to bid, we don't want to bias any of the other bidding. So, but we are here tonight to tell you that We have received this proposal. We have reached out to the other haulers who are licensed within the city. Several of them have said they would not be interested in bidding on a 7-year term. One small hauler has said they would be interested in bidding on the 7-year term. So our plan at this point is to finish fleshing out, as the council directed, our operating budget, our sustainable operating budget for continuing recycling in-house and sharing that with the TOOC at its upcoming October meeting, which is next Wednesday. And getting your input here tonight as to whether you would entertain a 7-year contract if the terms were beneficial. We are still planning to fully review with the TOOC and the DPW Commission a publicly run sustainable program, and that cost, as well as any of the 7-year contract proposals. With the TOOC meeting is next Wednesday. Our plan then would be to return to the City Council in November or December with a recommendation. So a key question is whether or not to negotiate with the one hauler who has submitted a 7-year term, which is Casella, or whether to go out to bid and offer this opportunity for other licensed haulers. The last item in the memo here that's important to discuss is flow control. Right now, any member of our community who has a residence for whom gets trash service, we are having the hauler collect the solid waste generation tax. It's on the bill, and it is $12 per month per residential dwelling unit. So a duplex, for example, would be paying $24 per month in tax that is passed on to the city that enables us to collect recycling. The challenge is that we have, as you heard in public comment, with the increased solid waste generation tax, as we've moved to be more sustainable, we've started to see some customers, some property owners seek to have their recycling collected or disposed of in other fashions, either by dropping off at the drop-off centers themselves or having a private hauler pick them up. So we've had this happen at one larger housing development, which will significantly impact our revenues for this year. So whether or not recycling is privately collected through a contract or municipally collected through city operation, we are planning to bring to the Transportation, Energy, and Utilities Committee the regulatory concept of flow control, which would basically be requiring residents of a certain size residential property to, if they have trash service, that they would also have to have municipal recycling service in order to keep a market share that would achieve economies of scale. So that is what's in front of you tonight. We're happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. We will open the floor now to any questions or feedback from councilors. Who would like to get in the queue? Councilor Bergman, and then Barlow.
Thank you. Thank you for leading in with what your plans are based, I think, in part on my questions that I posed and that you answered. So let me just say that I don't think it's appropriate for me or this body to be giving you advice now on this. You know, it's always a gut, and that's what it would be, is a gut thing, but the process is, I think, best looked at in the TOOC, and that's what I hear you doing. We have from the May 19th resolution the call to have us develop, or for you with us to develop a sustainable municipally run operation model and full cost estimates, to give us to that, and that's what I hear we're going to be getting at the TOOC. I think that's really important, particularly because what you're telling me tonight confirms that this is a natural monopoly, and that based on the work that you did in costing it out, that at least to the numbers that I've seen, that we're very competitive, right? In fact, we are cheaper than what was bid, and that's reflected, I think, in your initial decision. So I'll be curious to have more conversation. I think that this does speak to, regardless of who runs it, that you need to have a lot of lead time, and that there's a lot of capital, and that consolidated collection is really important for all the reasons that the two major studies over a long period of time concluded, both in terms of economic and ecological considerations. So I know in your answers to me that you're not really keen on developing a fully consolidated, be it public or private model now. I want to say that that's a disappointment to me. I understand the frustration that you've got with the bandwidth, so to speak. And I think that it would be really important to drill down on when that bandwidth and what it will take to have that bandwidth, as opposed to just saying we don't have it now, because clearly a consolidated collection system for this natural monopoly, which is a public good, an essential service and good, is something that we should be moving towards. So I look forward to more conversation on that and details at the TOOC. Let's see what I got here. As well as things around the staffing that you put in your memo to me that I just want to really get into, and I appreciate all the work that you did on that in response to Councillor Litwin. So that's good that we've got information there for our committee to deal with. So I'll leave it there. You know where I stand on this.
Thank you, Councillor Bergman. Councillor Barlow?
Thank you, Council President. I'm generally supportive. I'm looking forward to the conversations in TOOC, but I'm generally supportive of the longer time frame, and I understand the sort of economic realities that businesses face when they're ramping up to take on something like this. They have hiring, they have capital expenditures. And I'm still very supportive of fleshing this out more, particularly because we've seen how difficult it's been for us to hire for our recycling function. We've offered bonuses and tried to incentivize the recruitment effort, and we still have one recycling employee. So I'm not saying we couldn't do it, but it's been more challenging than I think any of us had hoped it would be. As has been mentioned, with a longer private contract, there's the potential opportunity cost of not being able to pivot to consolidated collection, maybe for as many, we put up the decision for 2 more years if we went from 5 to 7. But I don't agree necessarily that consolidated collection is sort of an inevitable outcome after all of this time. When we reviewed it 4 years ago, it was not a straightforward decision, and I believe it remains a challenging discussion about standing up a new municipal enterprise or finding private haulers that will partner with the city in a franchise model. And having been through that discussion once, I don't think we should assume that consolidated collection is something we will ultimately end up doing. It may be, but it may not. Just as likely, I believe, may not be. And I just wanted to make a note. I mean, it's more of a nit in your memo. In option 5, you say that we're going to move expeditiously a consolidated model, and I would suggest maybe we want to expeditiously review a consolidated model. Ultimately, whether or not we do or don't move to a consolidated model will be dependent on whether or not it represents a better value for residents. And like I said, I look forward to this discussion. I guess we'll be having it next week at TUC.
Yep.
Or the beginning of it anyways. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Barlow. Is there any other councilor that wants to be recognized on this item? Councilor Broderick, and then Litwin.
Thank you. I'll be brief. I agree with Councilor Bergman's comments. Yeah, no questions. I'm pretty disappointed that we are going back on this, especially when our motion was to look for a 3 to 5 year term, which my stance has been clear. I don't think we should be taking this. I believe the numbers will bear out that not only is it better for the residents of our city that we keep recycling we keep the recycling in the city, but there are more benefits, and I'm looking forward to the discussion in TUC. Yeah, I believe that the path to consolidated waste collection and consolidated waste collection that is run by the city is the path that we need to be on. And while I do still believe that recycling must be kept in-house, or we may not get it back, no matter what we are allowed to technically do. 7 years and 5 years is just, even if we were to go with this sort of stopgap measure and the numbers do not bear out how I expect them to be, it's just too long. This is the path that we need to be on the path to expanding our public services, because these are public goods. These are goods that should be democratically controlled. Residents should have the opportunity to complain about their services that they rely on to their elected officials, to the members of the commission, and they should have a say. I don't believe that this should be leaving the city under any circumstance, but again, interested to see what our conversation in TUC is like, so thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Broderick. Councilor Litwin.
Thank you. I am glad that the TUC is taking this up. Thank you, Councilor Bergman, and also to Director Spencer and Lee for kind of getting me some info that I was asking about your recruitment kind of actions to date. It is going to be hard for me, just personally, to get to a yes on a 7 year for a bunch of reasons that have kind of already been said tonight, but also from just public comment in general that we heard in the past, and a lot of emails of just folks who I think we assuaged some fear by looking at the 3 to 5 year term, because at 7 years, let's be honest, it's very unlikely that we'll be going back to a municipal system. So that basically spells the end for that. Now, I understand, I've always been clear and empathetic about what the problems are that you are facing, about the difficulty of the job, the high injury rates, the fact that there's not enough folks. It's dangerous because people are having to do the recycling, switch over to the recycling, and then in winter it gets even worse because they're having to go out plowing. I have been listening, and I take all that on seriously. But I also think that we can do more when it comes to recruitment. I'm not saying that what you haven't done isn't sufficient under normal circumstances, but I do believe that we can be doing more with job fairs, we can be doing more with organizations that are helping to get folks out and working that have maybe had hurdles and other difficulties in their lives. I know that you have a long list here of organizations that you have worked with. Again, I think you've done a normally sufficient outreach. But I don't think that Casella is particularly more competitive than we are, and so I think they face the same issues. When I look on the Casella website, they're paying $25 to $31 an hour for these jobs. We're paying roughly the same. They have a $2,000 hiring bonus offer. We have a $2,000 hiring bonus offer. Perhaps we need to reconsider. Do we get a little more competitive than Casella? Is that worth it? Is that the investment that people want to make? That's certainly something that we can discuss in the TOOC. And that the public should be involved in the conversation on. There has been a lot of passionate public outreach on this, and I'm not saying it's a good idea or a bad idea, but I think we do need to be careful about weighing our options, especially when making decisions to end a program of this nature. And so I would just love to see more, and perhaps this could come out of TOOC, a more robust recruitment plan. I know Councilor Grant has often spoken about the importance of recruitment with our police department, and I agree that they had to go out and do, a bit more, right? Showing up at job fairs, showing up at, maybe there's a way to get high schoolers or who are fresh out of high school to get their CDLs and that sort of thing. And I see that Casella has a CDL training program as well, so I don't know to what degree we can offer something like that. But I am out there talking to folks. Every time I hear that there's a CDL, somebody has a CDL, I go, ooh, have you ever considered a career with the city? And I encourage all of my fellow councilors to do that. But I just don't see how Casella can be more competitive based on what's available to me, or that they wouldn't have the same problem recruiting to bring up to speed a program large enough for Burlington. So I'll leave that there, but ask that our distinguished colleagues on TOOC please take recruitment up as part of the plan. Thanks.
Thank you. Are there any other councilors that wish to be recognized? Yep, Councilor Carpenter. Go ahead.
Thanks. These are just a little bit random comments. I think it's just important, and I don't know where I'm falling here, but to remember that out there in the recycling municipal world, I think one of your earlier slides said about 60% of the municipalities that offer this service do it under contract. So this is not an unusual model, and maybe we need to look more closely and learn from them. I don't see subcontracting, if that's the right term, losing control. And again, I think if you could articulate in the contract, how does a consumer complain? How does that, how does that compare to us? Because we buy a lot of services from a lot of vendors, and I hope we hold them accountable, and people can complain about them if they want to. So I don't feel like you're losing control just because you want to hire somebody else's trucks or somebody else's staff. And looking at us, we're Burlington, we're only giving the contractor half the recycling pie. The other half of the pie, I don't know if it's half, is the commercial business. So they have that business, and they have all of Chittenden County, or basically they have all of Chittenden County. So they have a pool of people and a pool of trucks that could be to our benefit. So I'm just raising those as points to say, contracting doesn't mean we lose control, and maybe it gives us access to a bigger pool, because we've got all the county left to do. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilor Carpenter. Is there any other councilor that wishes to be recognized? Councilor Grant? And then Councilor Newbeezer?
Thank you. I'm not going to repeat some of the comments. I do agree with some comments, and I am concerned about the length of time, because I do think that after 7 years, we will be very comfortable and make it a long-term situation. We won't be looking for people the way we are now. I still feel that some of the changes that were made with regards to really focusing on recruitment and addressing the issues as to the salary and the sign-on bonus to make us more competitive are still very recent, and I think we do need to, continue in some way, and if we end up in this long arrangement, we'll fall back on that. And I think that when we want to look about how we attack climate concerns and the number of trucks that we have going through the neighborhoods, some doing garbage, some doing recycling, the fact that there isn't a guarantee that would get to consolidated. Noise pollution is definitely an issue for people with our trucks for pickup, for garbage and recycling. If we go into a contract with them and we have vehicles, could they rent our vehicles? Could they, so I'd like to see if other things like that could be explored. But for this long of a period of time, I just think it would be the city surrendering to having a private hauler do it on an ongoing basis. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Grant. Councilor Newbeezer?
Thank you both for this update and for all your work on this. I know it's been a long journey, and it sounds like we've got some steps to continue to investigate here. I think the biggest takeaway I'm hoping, because we're not taking action tonight, I'm hoping that residents take away that we've looked at privatizing recycling, using a private company to collect recycling in the city of Burlington. And we understand now, definitely, that we are at least equal to, or actually cheaper, to collect recycling as a city versus to bid this out to a private hauler. I think the conversation around flow management and making sure that larger residential buildings buy in so that we can lower costs per household makes a whole lot of sense. I think looking at requiring that every property in the city of Burlington use our recycling system will lower costs on residents. I think this memo starts to build the case for why that is, or points me in that direction. And I also think we need to move rapidly to consolidated waste collection as well. And I would pose to folks that, once again, publicly owned consolidated waste, recycling, and compost will end up, and this is another example proving, will actually cost less money for each individual household. The other thing I just want to remind folks, just to really hammer home this point, is that one of the first issues I got involved in Burlington was this conversation about privatizing Burlington Telecom. And I remember going to council meetings and city meetings and hearing folks talk about it, and was told over and over and over that either costs wouldn't go up if we privatized, or actually in some cases folks claimed that costs would go down for consumers. I've had Burlington Telecom at various places I've lived in the city, and I will say my bills have only increased since the city took that action. I'd also highlight that we have publicly owned electric utility, and we have a publicly owned water department, both of which provide utility service to consumers in the city at some of the most competitive rates.
Councilor Newbeezer, I'm sorry. Your sound just went out there for a moment.
Oh, am I back?
Yeah, you're back now.
That was the sound of freedom. The F-35's going over the end here. Another issue we need to continue to work on. So I'll just say that we have publicly owned utilities, and they provide affordable service to consumers. We have strong affordability programs for low-income folks in our community. Oh, I got another one going here. Sorry about that.
We could hear you still.
Okay.
Yeah.
The rattling. For folks in the East End will sympathize with me. The rattling of your office desk on Zoom when the F-35s go over. But so we've tried all these different options. And we've seen time and time again, whether it's recycling, whether it was our telecom service, whether it's our water department or our electric utility, that public ownership has provided the most affordable, reliable service over time for Burlington residents. And this memo and this whole exercise of costing out going to a private hauler is another example proving that fact. I'm going to continue, and I've made my position clear on this, I'm going to continue to pursue publicly owned consolidated municipal system, and won't be supporting anything that moves us away from that direction. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other councilor that wishes to speak on this item? Councilor Schachter?
Hi, I'll keep it quick. I just wanted to say it would be very helpful. I think I'm thinking about the public and them tuning into our council meetings, and also as a member of this body who's not on TOOC. When you come back with a more formal recommendation and sort of in what's going to now unfold at TOOC and at the DPW Commission, I think it would be really helpful to understand not just cost comparisons of keeping it in-house versus contracting with an external provider and the number of years and how that changes the cost, but also some of the opportunity costs of, extending the transition to the consolidated waste stream. And like what, I feel like there's kind of other ways to look at this and cost to take into account. Like, what would it mean to sign a 7-year contract? I know what that means, but beyond just the price, like where does that leave us with some of these other sort of longer term and I think more efficient things that we're thinking about, and just to make sure we're taking those into account and not just looking at the prices, which I know you're doing, but just wanted to say it out loud.
Great.
Thank you, Councilor Schachter. I do not have any other councilors in the queue. All right. Well, seeing none, I thank you for coming this evening for this presentation. We'll look forward to your presenting to the TOOC, and then no doubt continuing the discussion here at some point in time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Our last two items on the agenda are items 5.7, 5.8. They are proposed charter changes. I will note for the sake of the public that if either one of these resolutions are approved, the next action would be that the Charter Change Committee would take the item up. Councilor Bergman, you are the main sponsor on each one of these items. My understanding is that on each one I will turn to you for a motion. I would then be open to the mayor providing some comments on them, and then Councilor Bergman, you'd be welcome to have the floor back afterwards.
Thank you very much. So I will move on item 5.7, which is the tax fairness charter change, to waive the reading and adopt this resolution calling for us to refer the proposed charter amendments to the Charter Change Committee and report back for our November 17th meeting, and have the floor back after a second and a chance for the mayor to speak first.
Thank you, Councilor Bergman. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Thank you, Councilor Broderick. Mayor, we'd be happy to share the floor with you, and then we'll go back to Councilor Bergman.
Great. Thank you, President Travers, and thank you, Councilor Bergman. This makes me feel like a bill walkthrough in my old life as a legislator. This is going to bring me back. I really appreciate the council considering this first of two charter change resolutions tonight. I'm going to speak to the first one and walk people through where this was originated from, and give some context around why I think this is an idea that warrants at least going to committee to explore further, to be able to get more into the details. And much like in the legislature, I want to remind folks that when there's a bill introduction in first reading, it's a concept piece. It's a piece that you think there's enough merit to be able to go into committee to give us as the administration and staff and councilors more time to deliberate and think on the details. So there is never a bill, I'm 99.9% sure, that goes through the legislative process that looks exactly like it did in its first reading. So I offer this, or I offer my comments and Councilor Bergman's draft in that spirit. So The first resolution in front of you, especially related to the property tax exemption for homestead, is an idea that comes out of the Tax Fairness Working Group. That is a report we shared about a meeting or two ago from about 6 months of work between community members and our city staff to start thinking about different ways our municipal tax policy could be fairer. There were a lot of recommendations that came out of that report. The idea that was the simplest and received the most support among committee members to either fully adopt or to at least research more was indeed this exemption of certain amounts of property value for someone's homestead. So that's why we're bringing this forward for your consideration. What this does in part is to begin, it's not a single solution at all, to address the tax burden on households with lower valued property paying municipal taxes to the city. It would be especially helpful for low to moderate income people who own those properties to get some level of tax relief. And it would shift, because we have to make sure that the city doesn't lose revenue, of course. It would shift on the other side, more of a slightly more tax burden. I'm going to give you an example in a minute, towards those properties that are not homesteads. And when you think about what we talk about in types of property, the homestead designation is attached to our education property tax bills on the state level. And not everybody actually fills out a homestead declaration form. That's because if you make too much, or not too much, if you make a certain amount of income over a certain point, it doesn't actually always make sense to fill one out, because you're not going to get the income rebate if you are over that certain household threshold. However, we would use the same designation because, simply put, it's really built for people's primary residencies. And if you don't live in the state more than, I think it's 182 days a year, you couldn't qualify anyway for a homestead declaration. And so we're picking up that tax concept because it's one that's very familiar to Vermonters already. So again, a homestead is, think about primary residence and every other property. So think second homes, commercial properties, including rental properties, or anyone who has a property where they're not living there 182 days of the year would be considered the non-homestead property that would have a slight increase to their property tax in order to give this tax relief to those who are the full-time residents in their homestead with this concept. So the city already also exempts, it has this concept already on the books for exempting $40,000 worth of the property value for folks who have that. It's called primary residence in this scenario, but we exempt already the first $40,000 for folks who are disabled veterans who live in the city of Burlington from their municipal property tax. So this is a concept we already have an example of, and it is also a concept that's used in other places in the country. Hawaii is a great example where the cost of, if your property continues to gain value over the years you live in it. I have a college friend, for example, who inherited her house from her parents, and there'd be no way on the very modest income of a teacher for which she is that they could stay in that house and pay the property taxes at the higher value without something like this construct. So Hawaii has a property value exemption as part of it to help people who are low to moderate income, the locals, if you will, not get priced out of that kind of market situation with the property values. So if in the proposed language, again, that starts the conversation, we propose in the charter to exempt the first $30,000 for every homestead. It's simple, it's straightforward, it helps to kind of build a predictable way for folks to get some level of relief by taking off $30,000 off the property value for your property for homesteads. And if this was applied for fiscal year 26, a homestead that was valued at $500,000, just a scenario, would currently pay $7,632 for the year for municipal taxes. With this exemption, if we applied it to this year, that same house with that same property tax bill would see a decrease, if it was their homestead, of $261. Their bill would be $261 less for the year. This would require us on a non-homestead property valued at $500,000 to go up a little bit by $210. And it's for the year, it's not by month. And I want to give that perspective because it is a minimal bump down, a minimal bump up. But again, if our effort is to really work towards affordability and putting different tax measures in place that start to address on a municipal level things that are actionable and straightforward enough so we can implement them, this is a worthy idea. It is also really trying to target the properties that we know our primary residents, our locals, are living in. And again, folks who have low to moderate income will be able to feel some relief if we can actually think about sort of writing equitably where we raise the revenue from. I again think this is a really good step for Burlington to consider as we think about rebalancing how we raise local taxes. This is just one of a few different options. And I also want to just name that Nancy Stetson has created a great dashboard. I know she shared it out to all counselors. It's a great tool to play around with, and she left all the buttons, or whatever they're called, for all the different scenarios that the Tax Fairness Working Group worked on beyond this one idea. So it's a really interesting way to see how you crank up the $30,000 exemption, for example, what that does across the board for homestead, non-homestead. It's just a whole smorgasbord of information, as she often does. The second part of this resolution talks about a separate idea or separate concept that I think is also worthy of discussion in committee. That second concept is to help us, in part, start to address the structural budget gap issues with the city's municipal budget. One of the major contributing factors to our gap is that the general tax rate does not automatically increase with inflation. And so what has happened in Burlington over the course of many years, many councils and many mayors, is the politics of, do we put a general tax rate increase on the ballot, which per charter right now requires voter approval. And it's never necessarily linked to inflation every year. Inflation, unfortunately, we live in an inflationary environment for at least as long as I've been alive, and it becomes a predictable cost of doing business for the city. And yet, we always stumble through the process of putting it on the ballot, and often only with 2 or 3 months' notice to taxpayers about what even the amount would be. So it is not predictable. It is not helpful for a modern-day city to be able to plan around the unpredictability of the way of addressing that particular tax rate number. So what this again proposes, and it's a piece of the puzzle of closing our structural budget gap, is that our general tax rate increase would instead be set by the council, and the maximum increase for which the council could increase that amount would be by the rate of inflation. We propose CPIU based on Northeast. It's a very standard inflation index that is used in a lot of different places to, again, create that predictability from where we're building the city budgets, create the predictability for taxpayers who are trying to plan out their own fiscal planning to know what the tax rates would be. And because we have the ability elsewhere in the charter, a city council could actually do a lower tax rate. And I forget well, maybe Jessica can quote the other part of the charter, someone really needs to know tonight. But another part of the charter allows council always to factor down a tax rate and not always charge it at that full inflationary number, because maybe one day the city will have a significant growth in our grand list. And we don't need to draw as much from taxpayers because the overall grand list has grown with additional properties, bringing in additional revenue for the city. We also did a lot of due diligence, just to wrap up, around the structural budget gap that we have, because there's two sides of it, is how you raise revenue and how you're spending the money. We did a lot of really hard work together, the council and my office, to close a second structural budget gap this last year for this current fiscal year of $14 million. It took a lot of diligent work. We did a core service of like, what are the core services required with a service inventory of the city. We looked in every department. We even and ultimately had to reduce the size of our workforce by 25 positions, which was a painful process that was not easy, to help start to close this perpetual gap that we have. Because we have to look both at the expense side and the revenue side in order to ultimately solve this for Burlington. And so we've been able to narrow that gap, but we have not solved things. This charter change would be one more piece, one more tool in our toolbox to be able to provide some more predictability in building our budgets. I already mentioned that point. And finally, I just want to remind council of our 18 different splinter tax that we have. We already have 2 tax rates for which the council already has the sole authority to increase, and that is our parks tax and our highway tax, which don't require voter approval. So this would not be unprecedented. This would allow, again, a more predictable tool using one of our tax rates in order to build more sensible budgets and ones for which a modern city can really plan around. With that, I will either yield to Councilor Bergman or back to you, Council President Travers.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilor Bergman, we'll give you the floor. Do you want it on both items, 5.7, 5.8, or the motion is on 5.7? So I'm happy to turn the floor to you now, and then we'll deal with 5.8 later?
Yes.
Okay, so 5.7, Councilor Bergman.
Thank you.
The floor is yours.
First, I want to thank the mayor again for making tax fairness and equity part of our affordability agenda and creating that task force to vet ideas. And I want to reiterate my thanks to task force members and the city staff for their work. It was really, really good. We have right now the first proposal before us, and that one gained almost unanimous support from the task force to exempt the first $30,000 of a homestead's appraised value. And it reflects something that I and we have been saying since Bernie first got elected and actually ran for mayor in 1981, and that is that property taxes are regressive, that low and moderate income people should not be priced out of their homes by rising property values and the resulting rise in tax. The proposal to exempt $30,000 to $50,000, the first $30,000 or $50,000 was supported by 10 of 12 members of the task force. And importantly, they found that it would address the inequities in assessed values across low and high value properties and would shift the municipal tax burden away from lower value primary residents towards higher value commercial properties whose owners have a much greater ability to pay. And the two other members asked for more research and community engagement. Now, passing this resolution tonight will allow us to do all three things. Start the process to adopt a tax fairness and equity proposal, allow us to continue to research and evaluate this proposal and report back in time to get something on the ballot, and advance the community engagement through the committee process and hopefully a ballot question for voters to decide. Now, I know that there are concerns about the impact on renters, and I share those concerns. It appears to the numbers that I've seen from Nancy that there is no valid reason or reasonable reason why landlords should be increasing their rents because of a proposal to raise the exempt or to create an exemption by $30,000. The numbers are very, very small, even at the highest level there, and the law of supply and demand with a virtually non-existent vacancy rate means that landlords can charge what the market will bear already. Still, the same reasons to pass this resolution apply to this too. We get to start to analyze, to engage, and hopefully propose something to voters. So we can take into consideration concerns about renters. This proposal also includes an inflation escalator. As we heard, it was not part of the task force focus, but deals with a structural deficit that in part's caused by inflation since 2012 that has risen 39%, and we have seen the impact, the mayor has said, in terms of the layoffs and other tough budget decisions that we made.
Keep going.
So we really do need in our budgeting process to create a system which is more predictable and more accurately predicts the tax implications of what we're doing. And let's be clear, the budget process requires us to pace ballot tax increases on the ballot in March, like now, in December, well early in a budgeting process. It means that we have to do complicated vetting in October through November. That is insanity. So we need to make hard decisions, but we need to be able to have the mechanisms to do them in a smart and sensible and predictable way. So I think that this starts us in looking at that, and I ask you to join me in beginning that process by referring the proposal, adopting the resolution and referring the proposal to the Charter Change Committee so we can get it back for our November 17th meeting. And I understand that there is potentially an amendment on the deadline, and from what I heard, I would be sympathetic to it if it's made.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Bergman. Does any other councillor wish to speak on this item? Councillor Carpenter. then Newbeezer, and then Litwin.
Thanks. I'm totally supportive of exploring it, and I just think in the exploration, we should look at the pros and cons of the exemption and the inflator, and whether those should be 2 ballot items or 1 ballot item.
Thank you, Councillor Carpenter. We'll go Councillor Newbeezer, and then Litwin, and then Broderick, then Singh, then Barlow.
Thank you, Council President, and thank you to the mayor and everybody who served on the tax fairness task force working group. I'm really excited to see the first recommendation come out of that work, and I think this is an incredibly sensible idea, and I'm excited for the committee to look into it further and discuss some of the detail. I just want to step back a second and again highlight what I think is the most important point as we continue this conversation around how do we, whether it's housing policy, the budget coming up, local tax mechanisms and rates, and how we raise revenue. The whole point of all this, to my mind, or should be, to make our city affordable for working and middle class families. That is the point of having any discussion, to my mind, at the local level around any sort of fiscal policy. How will it impact low and middle class families and residents? And I think this proposal is shows a lot of promise to providing direct relief to working and middle class folks in a very timely manner. So I hope that I'm excited to see what the discussions ahead look like, but I'm really excited about this idea and this mechanism to provide some relief. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go to Councillor Litwin, and then Broderick.
Thanks. I also am grateful for all the work that folks have put into coming up with these ideas. I have to say that I have a lot of trepidation this evening. I have only seen this as of like Thursday, Friday, and have had a lot of questions. I'm very proud to live in a Champlain Housing Trust building, have so for 11 years, but I recognize that there's a privilege in that, and that we're a bit protected from some of the things that happen on the market. And so I'm very sensitive to the idea that while I have that privilege myself, many of the people I represent who are apartment dwellers do not have that protection and privilege and are paying exorbitant rents, which we have all talked much about. I think we have a lot of agreement there. So I have so many questions around this, and we only received the tool on Monday afternoon, and even just a quick glance at it, moving the universal exemption around and the homestead properties around. Just one apartment building that I represent could have easily an $11,000 increase because it is a non-homestead property. So I know there's a lot I need to learn and a lot that I need to catch up to speed on, and that's why I'm more open to committee process. But to be clear, the tax fairness committee meetings were not public, and so there does need to be more conversation, especially so that our many, many apartment dwellers feel confident and clear that they're not going to end up with increases on their rent. Ballparking for one of these buildings that could be easily over $150 a year per unit. And one of the things I've talked a lot about on the street, door knocking with folks, was all these bonds that come online. And so, for example, this July 1, we started paying our high school bond, and how much that's doing to your per apartment rent, because at the end of the day, we do not have the ability to control rents. We have not been given that legislative right. And so I just don't believe that large property owners are going to are going to dig in their pockets and come up with the extra cash. So as long as we can continue to have a conversation about what does this mean for apartments who are non-homestead units, especially like, for example, I live at Cambrian Rise. There's so many buildings there that are on this list that would see an increase, percentage change in their overall tax bill. So I'm very concerned about the speed, and I think that it would be hard for me to support even moving this to committee if we are pushed to have this conversation and do this research in an attempt to make like a December 1st or whatever that is deadline for getting it on this ballot. I think I would have needed to see this sooner so that I could start learning more, getting up to speed, speaking with my constituents, and then of course we need to have, in my mind, public discourse. So I will leave that there. I don't know if somebody's planning on making a motion about those deadlines. That's the first that I'd heard about it, so thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Litwin, Councillor Broderick, and then Singh.
Thank you, and thank you to the mayor and to the Tax Fairness Working Group for bringing these proposals. Obviously, it's a necessity, not just as Councillor Newbeezer said, to protect working class folks in the city, which does include renters, but also, in my opinion, tacking on to that is how do we fund not just the city of today, but how do we fund the city of tomorrow and anything that we would want to do in the future, especially given our governments on the federal and state level continue to pull away from supporting a city like Burlington. I want to see more people helped by our city through services, not less. So I am still confused and about the revenue neutrality of this. It seems like it's like two separate things with the exemption and then how that also shifts to non-homesteads and commercial. I'm still kind of confused over, but I am interested to learn more about it in the future. I am comfortable sending it to committee so I can learn more about it. But yeah, I share the concerns that have been said already. I am concerned about the impact on renters. I don't believe in the benevolence of landlords to eat that cost. But at the same time, I do believe that we need to fund both the city of today and the city of tomorrow. So I think we are moving in the right direction with what this committee working group brings to us, so thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Broderick. Councillor Singh.
Thank you, Council President Travers. Thank the Tax Fairness Committee for their time. Thank you, Nancy Stetson, for providing that tool to us. I just wanted to illustrate a few things with regards to this proposal on non-homestead properties. Looking at it, the biggest property tax gain would be 165 Davis Road, which is a Redstone-owned UVM dorms right by the athletic fields. Like also 500 South Prospect, though only around 7,000, it's another part of the Redstone Apartments. Another one out there is 98 Star Farm Road, the Star Farm Nursing Home would see an $8,400 increase in taxes. 43 Star Farm Road, Birchwood Rehab, which has been part of this city for over 30 years, about $5,800 increase in taxes. 1925 North Avenue, 14,400, that's Northgate in the New North End. 140 Grove Street, Bayberry Commons, 16,168. 985 North Avenue, Little Eagle Bay, about 5,000. I bring these three because they were easy ones to locate. These are all workforce, elderly, students, and some inclusionary zoned housing that would see property taxes increase. And I'm not trying to dissuade us from property tax relief. What I'm trying to illustrate here is that property taxes, as the state of Vermont and the city is set up, is a zero-sum game. So as we decrease taxes from somewhere else, they need to be made up in another place. And this goes to why something like this garners a bigger discussion. I believe in property tax relief, but I think it should be tied to the growth in the grand list. with growth in business activity and economic development. It should also be tied to our housing targets. Something like this should be part of a bigger economic package for this city that addresses those needs. Doing this as a singular resolution doesn't get to those things, because I believe for the city of our future, we are going to have this same discussion again, because again, we are dealing with a zero-sum game. Additionally, 4 to 6% on non-homesteads, that's apartments on Loomis Street, that's apartments in the South End. Additionally, on the Tax Fairness Committee, there was no developers. If these people are our partners in housing for the future of Burlington, they should be at this discussion when they're seeing their tax bills go up by, thousands and thousands of dollars. We haven't talked about the commercial impact. Commercial rates are going up all over the city, and we talk about how Church Street is not affordable to the average Vermonter. In order to attract low-cost, low-margin, high-volume type of business, commercial rates need to be lower. And for them to locate in the city and to be accessible to people in our city, we have to take the commercial property tax into consideration. I can't support this as a standalone resolution for all those reasons that I've just stated. I think that we should have an economic growth, housing, and tax fairness as all part of one discussion. This in singularity doesn't meet what we need going forward for this city, and it unduly impacts people trying to do commerce, renters, and in this case, I see it happening to some of our elderly population that reside in nursing homes and rehab facilities. So I will not be supporting this to go to committee unless we have a broader discussion on the items that I've discussed. Thank you.
You, Councillor Singh. Councillor Barlow.
Thank you, Council President Travers. I also want to appreciate the work of the Tax Fairness Working Group, the members. I was part of that group. And this proposal that we're considering tonight was the most, had the most sort of positive engagement, I guess, by members. It wasn't universally approved. There were some of us who thought it was an interesting idea and worthy of more work and more engagement. And I was among those. I'm not ready to send this recommendation to charter tonight. This timeline feels rushed to me, and I would like us to do more public engagement before we craft a charter change around this recommendation. Ultimately, I may be supportive, but as I indicated in discussions and feedback I gave in the Tax Fairness Working Group, I would like to get input from stakeholders whose voices were largely missing from those discussions, and specifically I'd like to hear from private rental property owners and the business community whose taxes are estimated to increase as a consequence of this exemption. But I understand the political realities, and if this referral passes tonight, I hope we will have enough time to do this necessary outreach in the committee process to include these missing voices, and then that additional feedback is incorporated into the charter change before it comes back to the council. And I hear a willingness, at least on the part of my colleague who serves on that committee, to do that engagement. But I just feel that this has been a little rushed. And I also appreciate the comments of Councillor Singh about trying to be more holistic about, fairness, tax fairness, and juxtapose that with an economic growth policy as well. So yeah, that's where I'm at right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Barlow. Is there any other councillor that wishes to be recognized on this item? We'll go Councillor Grant. Sorry? Yes, we'll go Councillor Grant and then Councillor Schachter. Councillor Carpenter, I see you were recognized previously. We'll go through a first round here first, and then if there's a second round, we'll turn to that. So Councillor Grant.
Thank you. I guess I feel a little bit differently. I would be pretty shocked if we don't send this to committee. I think that that is the bare minimum that we need to do. I also don't, I just don't agree with any additional delays. This conversation is a conversation that in the past, the city of Burlington has just not been willing to enter in an earnest way. And so we have an opportunity to do something different now. And part of this conversation is that it will be difficult at times. The point that it's a zero-sum game is very well taken, so we have to look at those numbers. I have all kinds of feelings about downtown and what affects rental prices downtown and the types of businesses that are able to operate downtown, but that is for another day and another meeting, I suppose. But I just think that we can't talk about kicking the can again. We know we have to do something to release some of the pressure that is coming down on our property tax payers, especially our homeowners. So we have to be having the conversation, and to not at least put it in committee would be delaying having that conversation. This would be a start, not necessarily the end, and I think it's our responsibility to do at least that. I do agree that there needs to be more public engagement, and that would be part of moving it to committee to make sure that happens. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Grant. Councilor Schachter?
Yes, I'm going to offer a friendly amendment and then have a couple comments. But the first is to move the date from November 17th to December 1st.
Okay, that's a motion to amend by Councilor Schachter. Is there a second? Well, sorry, actually, well, I need a second first on it. Is there a second? Councilor Barlow. I will turn to you, Councilor Bergman. He's not at the table. Okay, so why don't we'll wait for a moment for the seconder, Councilor Broderick, to come back to the table. Councilor Schachter, can we turn to you for the comments that you have, and then we'll come back to your amendment. If absent objection, we'll do that.
Yeah, my comments are very quick, which is that I echo pretty much everything that's been said, and I do think so often, I just want to echo particularly Councilor Singh's comment about really thinking about this in the bigger scheme of like what is our overall strategy for growing the pie and really having an economic growth plan. So I really appreciated those comments. And I also want to echo, I share the question around potentially decoupling the general fund tied to inflation thing with the property tax question. So I just wanted to name that makes sense to me as well. Them being linked up doesn't totally, I don't totally understand it. And they feel like two separate yet important conversations to have. Should we turn back to the motion?
Are you done with your comments?
I'm done with my comments.
Okay. So Councilor Broderick, there is a motion to amend on the table to amend the deadline by which the Charter Change Committee would be expected to report back from November 17th until December 1st, seconded by Councilor Barlow. Councilor Bergman, as the maker of the initial motion, has indicated that he is friendly to that. I turn to you as the seconder of the motion to ask if you are also friendly to it.
Yes.
Okay. So then this item will be considered amended to that end. Councilor Schachter, I would ask if you could please shoot a quick email to Lori Olberg and copy the City Attorney's Office such that it could be posted to the agenda indicating the amendment of changing that deadline. Is there any other councilor that has not been recognized on this item a first time that wishes to be recognized? Okay. Councilor Carpenter, I'm wary about opening a second round here. Yeah?
I just wanted to ask because I thought we were going to debate the motion on the table. The motion's been made, but we're going back.
What motion?
There was a motion to amend.
The resolution has been amended.
Okay, then I'd also like to make a motion.
Okay. Councilor Litwin?
Yeah, thank you. It may or may not be friendly, but I do not believe that December 1st, it provides enough time for us to fully have the conversation that Councilor Barlow is describing. We've just moved this from under 4 weeks to roughly 6 weeks. And I don't think that that would allow us to do our due diligence, particularly around the Thanksgiving holiday, to have these complex conversations about something that we've all agreed is quite, complex. So I reiterate my original point, which is I would have liked to see this sooner. I understand it takes time. So I would make a motion to remove the deadline from lines 21 through 24, and then again from lines 25 through 27, so that there is no deadline.
Okay. Is there a second to that motion? All right. With no second, Councilor Litwin.
Thank you.
The motion is not recognized. Councilor Carpenter, as I was indicating, I'm wary to turn to a second round here given the time on this item, but do you have a brief comment?
This is just a point of clarification, to understand that permanently affordable housing is governed, the taxation is governed by state law, so they would not be affected by this because there's a separate assessment protocol that they must do with affordable housing.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Are there any other councilors that wish to be recognized on this item? All right, the motion as amended is to adopt the resolution, waive the reading and adopt the resolution, which will send the item to the Charter Change Committee. And on that question, I'd ask that the clerk please call the roll.
Councilor Barlow?
No.
Councilor Bergman?
Yes.
Councilor Broderick?
Yes.
Councilor Carpenter?
Yes.
Councilor Grant?
Yes.
Councilor Kane?
Yes.
Councilor Litwin?
No.
Councilor Newbeezer?
Yes.
Councilor Schachter?
Yes.
Councilor Singh?
No.
City Council President Travers?
No.
Seven ayes, 4 nays, 1 absent.
Okay, so with 7 yeses, 4 noes, and 1 absent, the motion carries. We will now turn to item 5.8, resolution regarding the March 3rd, 2026 annual city meeting, charter change regarding city council authority to pledge credit of the city. And Councilor Bergman, could I turn to you first for a motion on this item?
Yes. I move to waive the reading and adopt the resolution calling for us to refer the proposed charter amendments to the Charter Change Committee and report back for our, let's make it December 1st to keep it in line, so that is an alternative. And I can send an email to Lori just to clarify that, and to have the floor back after a second and a chance for the mayor to speak on this first.
Great. So Councilor Bergman has moved the resolution as posted on Civic Clerk, amended to align the deadline to December 1st. Yes, if you could send a quick email on this one too to Lori in the City Attorney's Office, just so we could post it to reflect that amendment, that would be great. Is there a second on that motion?
Second.
Second by Councilor Broderick. Mayor, did you want the floor on this item as well? All right, so we'll turn to you and then we'll turn back to Councilor Bergman.
Thank you, President Travers. I would like to just remind folks that in 2024, this resolution probably looks somewhat familiar to those who are on council because we moved a very similar resolution for a charter change consideration to the committee about this time last year. And the committee, in its diligence, reported back that this was not ready, but given the other bonding questions that were also going to voters in Town Meeting Day 2025 related to supporting sizable infrastructure bonds for our capital program, our water and wastewater systems, for which voters did then go and support generously, and we, again, very much appreciate voters' confidence in the plan that we are putting forward to invest and do the necessary work on our infrastructure in order to meet our housing, climate, and otherwise our economic goals for the city. So this resolution is bringing that concept back for this session of the council to increase the annual borrowing limits needed for the ongoing capital needs for the city. There's been a sizable amount of inflationary growth. The cost of doing business, the cost of construction in particular, is sizable. And so trying to even just keep up with the regular needs, just speaking to the capital infrastructure needs for our facilities, for example, is a sizable task for the city. It is something that, again, back to fiscal planning and due diligence for our city to be able to be a modern day city, being able to increase what is currently a $2 million maximum annual borrowing limit for our capital needs. It's really needed to be able to increase to a more sizable number. We're proposing in this, again, draft concept to go to committee for first reading, moving to $5 million and then to $10 million over a series of years. That lines up with our bonding capacity for which we reported to this committee, or this council in the past, to make sure that we're doing this in a thought-out way around always being under our bonding limit authority within policy. So that is the first concept. The second concept, it relates to our two utilities, our Burlington Electric Department, as well as our Water Division, who also have ongoing capital needs that they need. Right? Currently, BED has an annual borrowing limit of $1 million. $1 million? Yes, $1 million. BED. Is that currently what they have? Yes, $3 million. Oh, sorry. We moved it in 2012. That's right. Reading my wrong note here. They currently have an annual borrowing limit of $3 million to do the capital upgrades for the BED large network and infrastructure. Water has no annual borrowing limit right now as a water utility, and you think about all the pipes and the infrastructure that's needed for, and this is kind of why we put ourselves in the place that we're in, with limited ability to annually borrow the resources needed to keep that large network of pipes and water systems and wastewater systems up to date. This is an ongoing need. Now, these concepts are about building, as Councilor Broad was talking about, a future city, to be able to look into the future and know that we're giving the right tools to our two utilities as well as to the city's capital program, the tools they need to keep our city functional and to invest in our assets so that we're never in a place where we have to turn around and close down Memorial Auditorium or other such things in the future, that we have the resources needed. As a little way of background, beyond 2024, where this went to committee, and again, the committee decided that it was not ready at the time based on other needs. The last time we touched these annual borrowing limits for capital and for BED was back in 2012. So it is relevant and timely that we consider this once again. And again, what I hope the committee does is really look into things in more detail and get back a report back around, is it ready for Town Meeting Day 2026? Is it ready for a future date? That is the diligent work of committees after first reading, and I hope that the council will see the utility of this proposal and send it to committee for further consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilor Bergman?
Thank you.
Floor to you.
Yep. This just makes sense, given the capital needs that we've all seen and know about, and the limited authority that we have to access capital funds we need to meet these needs. It's really penny wise and dollar foolish for government to defer capital maintenance and replace the vehicles and equipment and even facilities we need. Memorial is an example of that. It's a stark one. This will make predictable budgeting and planning, well, actually, if we don't have the proper limits, it makes predictable budgeting and planning very hard. And you'll see that the bonding limits for departments other than BED and DPW, water and solid waste, are sequenced to increase based on the pay down of the bonds for the high school, and those school bonds are paid when they're paid off, then the tax rate will decrease, so it leaves us more room to fund the capital needs that we've got and that we have deferred for so many years, and particularly deferred for paying the new high school. And just to be clear, the BED and DPW bond limits are based on departments' estimations of their regular needs. So just want to put another piece in there that while it is not likely that the water department is going to use this authority because of the passage of that major bonding that we approved last year. It still provides a specific authorization for the capital that they require for their regular needs, and it's just an important tool for the future. Otherwise we just kick the can down the road. And I didn't say this for the last one, but I say this for both of them. The status quo is failing us. Inaction is failing us. Kicking the can down the road is failing us. So I ask you to please send this to committee so we don't fail again.
Thank you, Councilor Bergman. Is there any other councilor that wishes to be recognized on this item? Councilor Schechter and then Barlow.
Thank you, President Travers. I just wanted to flag a couple of questions in my mind that I imagine may be discussed in committee, assuming this advances there, or are part of a broader conversation. But I'm thinking about what Councilor Busher shared in public comment tonight, and some of my own concerns around sort of leaning on increasing our debt limit and taking on more debt as sort of the primary way that we fund our capital and infrastructure needs. I'd love to see this also be part of a broader conversation around a economic growth plan, and also consider paths to funding maintenance that could include a maintenance reserve fund, and other ways that we might consider building this into our annual budget in a way that I don't believe we're currently doing, and that doesn't necessarily leave us increasingly reliant on debt. So I would just love to see us have that conversation as well.
Thank you, Councilor Schechter. Councilor Barlow.
Thank you. Yes, I will be also supporting this referral to charter change tonight. It shouldn't be lost on us that we haven't raised this for, I don't even know when the $2 million city was 2012, but well, it's a long time ago. So, and our needs have outstripped, our ongoing capital replacement needs outstrip that $2 million annually. So I think it makes sense for us to try to get our replacement needs for fleet and infrastructure on some schedule that we can sustainably fund. And I don't know if it's 5 or 10, but it's some number larger than 2, so we know that. And so I support us doing that, but with a caveat that once we start doing that, then we would be able to end the episodic sustainability bonds that we've seen come for like tens of millions of dollars. When we can't, and then we need to catch up. When we can't sustainably fund these things, then we have to sort of catch up. So I would rather have us have that predictability in our capital replacement schedules and the ability to fund those things sustainably. So I look forward to the conversation. One of the things that wasn't mentioned was that we know our friends at the school district also have borrowing authority for $2 million annually, and I would not be surprised if they saw us doing this and were interested in raising their annual authority as well. So I don't know if we've anticipated that or reached out to them, but we might want to do that as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Barlow. Does any other councilor wish to be recognized on this item? Councilor Singh.
I will also be supporting this to go to committee. I think Councilor Barlow took every single thing I was probably going to talk about out of there, but it's very true. $2 million these days for capital for a city, when people talk about, plow the roads, fill the potholes, do those things, that takes equipment. And I think this is an important step to have that sustainability and predictability for the things that people do look to the city for all the time and what they expect. So I think this moves us in the right direction for that. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Singh. Councilor Litwood.
I'll be super brief. I do support moving this to committee. I do have questions. I look forward to, I'm guessing CAO Shad will probably join us for some of those conversations, and so I always appreciate her expertise. and look forward to that. I think that this makes a lot of sense for me to move to committee, and it doesn't require quite as much scale of process. And so I don't need to get a lot of those questions answered right now, and I think that we can deliver this. Speaking as a member of the Charter Change Committee, I believe that we can deliver this by the proposed deadline. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Litwin. If there's no other councillor in the queue, I think we will go to a vote on this item. Again, if the resolution passes, it will refer the item to the Charter Change Committee. I think we'll try a voice vote on this one. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Or any opposed? That carries unanimously. So that is the end of our deliberative agenda. And I should mention, and thanks as well, Mayor, to your team, the City Attorney's Office, and the Tax Fairness Working Group. So that is the end of our deliberative agenda. That brings us to item 6, committee reports. Is there any councillor with a committee report? Councillor Bergman.
So first of all, our next ordinance committee meeting is going to be on the 7th and the 20th. And we did in our last meeting report out, you should be getting the mandatory retirement increase to 63, and we're keeping the jurisdiction over the issue in case there is a desire to, and some more consensus to eliminate the retirement mandatory age entirely, or change it to 65 or 67 or whatever. We are working through a proposal which hopefully you will see in November from DPW and the Public Works Commission on parking ordinances related to the delegation of authority to the department to make changes to stop signs and school zones and rights on red, preliminary to getting regulations created, and we are working through the details of that because there are actually a number of details that we needed to go through. And apropos to our conversation at the last meeting on disclosures, we set out a plan to start the conversation on that, and that plus the parking lot signage issue we should be taking up in November at the next meeting. So we are moving on these fairly well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bergman. Councillor Litwin, and then Barlow.
Actually, if you want to let Councillor Barlow go before me, that gives me a moment to pull up my notes. Thanks.
Okay, Councillor Barlow.
The Transportation, Energy, and Utilities Committee will be meeting at a non-standard time. We usually meet the 4th Tuesday of the month, but we're meeting on Wednesday, October 29th at 5:30 p.m. We're meeting down at 645 Pine. And as we mentioned earlier, we're discussing recycling next steps. And also we'll be getting an update on Great Streets, Bank and Cherry, and Plattsburgh Avenue and Route 127 traffic safety.
Thank you, Councillor Barlow. Councillor Litwin, you're prepared now?
Yes, thank you. So I just want to thank everybody. The CDNR committee, or Community Development Neighborhood Revitalization, for folks who are watching at home, has just wrapped up 2 items, one of which carried over from last year when Councillor Newbeser was chairing the committee, and I want to thank him for shepherding that along with our NPAs. We did pass out a resolution with the help of some of the leaders from the NPA steering committees, and that will be coming to the council to discuss, debate, slice and dice, whatever you see fit, I think at a future upcoming meeting. And I want to really thank the members of the NPA steering committee from across the city who participated with Councillor Newbeser in that important work to sort of better define the relationship with NPAs and the city and this council. Additionally, we wrapped up what the council asked us to do in May. We started meeting in, I want to say June. We held meetings all summer long. We double timed our meetings actually twice a month. Thank you, Councilor Schachter, for putting up with that. Appreciate it. And we ultimately released a report, which is on the consent agenda tonight. It's about 18, 17 pages or so, but it's mostly bullet pointed. And we've essentially passed this out of committee, not unanimously, so we have more work to do as a body here to discuss what are those recommendations that we have made to address sort of what we saw was I guess from a top-down approach, because volunteers and folks in the community are doing a very good job of getting out there and cleaning up syringe litter in the community, as well as members of our city staff who we're incredibly thankful for, particularly given departmental staffing issues that occur, particularly in the Parks Department. I invite all of you to read those recommendations if you have not already. I'm also available to have conversations with folks, but ultimately there's some really interesting data in there. We did spend a lot of time this summer requesting data from the Department of Health. The Howard Center joined us, Turning Point joined us, a lot of folks joined us, and we're incredibly grateful for everybody who took the time to come out and share their experience or their thoughts on what are some of the ways that we can get at this. Ultimately, a lot of these we feel require a lot of conversation with the state and particularly the Department of Health, who are funding the operation of the SSPs or syringe service providers. Lastly, I do want to say that it looks like there's a really interesting looking panel that will be happening this week on October 23rd, right here in this room in the Contoys, with some of the people who actually came and were part of that conversation at the table with CDNR, like Cam Law from Turning Point and Dan Hall from Howard Center, who I'm appreciative that they came to our meetings. It will be moderated by Peter Clavel. It's sponsored by Building Burlington's Future, and it's in here 6 to 8 p.m. on the topic of Recovery First in Burlington.
Can I give a point of information?
Yes.
I think that the location has been moved, and it's on Pine Street. I want to say 400 Pine Street, but we should confirm that quickly.
All right. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Anybody who's interested can go and follow the Burlington, what is it, Building Burlington's Future on their social media. But I just wanted to thank those folks who were part of that conversation, and then ultimately, I would imagine, we'll be focusing on Recovery First in Burlington as well. Thank you to Councilor Schachter, and then going forward, we'll be taking up your regional programs, which you referred to us, I think you referred to us, you asked us to do something with, and we continue to dialogue about the aging council work. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Litwin. Is there any other councilor with a committee report? Councilor Grant.
Thank you. There was no REIB meeting tonight, but REIB staff, our Office of Racial Equity, Inclusion, Belonging, had some public engagement talking about the charter change and getting public feedback. We anticipate the next meeting for the REIB committee will be on Tuesday, November 18th. The Public Safety Committee will be meeting this Thursday at 5:30 p.m. And in addition to the chief's reports that we hear each month, we will also have Tammy Buddha from the Howard Center Street Outreach Team, as well as our state's attorney, Sarah George, attending. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Grant. Any other councilor with a committee report? Okay. We'll turn now to City Council General City Affairs. Is there any councilor that wishes to get in the queue on General City Affairs? Councilor Broderick, we'll turn to you first.
Thank you. So I wanted to first thank wholeheartedly and acknowledge the students who came out today to share their stories on UVM's housing conditions, their experiences, the experiences of others, and their request for support, for help from their representatives. As a student myself, I have heard many more stories and have seen many of these cases for myself. And it is shocking to hear, especially as someone who's been looking into this. This overwhelming outreach by students is coming off of over a year of research and investigating on this topic by myself, collaboration with multiple student organizations on campus, such as the Student Tenant Union, who has been tackling this issue for even longer than I have. And what you have heard today is just the start, the tip of the iceberg. What you have heard today and what I have gathered demands action. There will be more to come on this in the near future, and if other counselors are interested in supporting these efforts after what you have heard tonight, please reach out to me. And those efforts and those findings will be shared with my colleagues over the next week and will potentially lead to action, like I said, in the near future. So I am excited to be moving forward with this after the amount of time and the hurdles that I've had to go through to get to this place, but I cannot thank enough the students for making their voices heard and using city government for what it's for, which is to serve the people, and that includes our students. So once again, thank you. I will also encourage that all tenants on or off campuses to be continuing to share your stories and to report suspected housing code violations that have been ignored by your landlord to the Department of Permitting and Inspections, which you can do by looking up the Burlington Department of Permitting and Inspections, going to Housing Division, and then to Minimum Housing Complaint Form. From there, you can create an account for the portal and fill out the form. You will then need to work with DPI on a time for an inspector to come and inspect. And feel free to email me if you need a more detailed explanation on this process. Email Director Ward with DPI or your city councilor. So again, thank you. This is an issue that I've been very passionate about, and I've been working with so many folks for the past year and a half, or over a year. And I'm excited to work with folks on it, so thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Broderick. Is there any other councilor that wishes to be recognized in general city affairs? Yep, Councilor Grant.
I agree with what Council Broderick just said, and what we really need to think about. First of all, it's been hard getting information, which is just not okay. We have to keep in mind that a few things. One, UVM went to a very classist pricing structure for the dorms. That was the decision they made. They did that. And so now you have students that are in the older dorms having to also put up with some unacceptable conditions, and the inspections of these residences are just, there doesn't, at this time, we're just trying to determine what is the evidence that they're being done, because there have been many stories about filing the maintenance request, talking to their RAs, their residential advisors, and not getting any results. We have to have students be willing to live on campus. As it is, a lot of them, because of their residential experiences and the lack of response that they get, that drives them off campus even faster. So we do want to get to the point where we are successful, have a new MOU. We are able, I think everyone in this room wants to be able to expand zoning so that UVM can build, but if they, at the same time, cannot properly maintain the residences that they have, we're still going to have even more students pouring into the residential areas in Burlington, which will, of course, continue to exacerbate our vacancy rate. So this is all part of the bigger picture that we need to keep in mind. I also want to talk about the Howard Center and the needle exchange programs. I really feel, I used to live on Clark Street. I used to actually live right next to that building, and I understand what my neighbors on Clark Street have been dealing with, but it's not all of the Howard Center's fault. The fact of the matter is that we have a very bad drug crisis in the city of Burlington. Right around the corner for a very long time was one of the worst drug dens we had in the city. So the Howard Center could literally have disappeared overnight, and that would not have stopped the activity, because there was literally, actually there were at least two that were in around the corner, and then one a few blocks away. So we have in the downtown core, and our quantitative data is copious with regards to the activity. Clark Street is essentially part of the downtown core. So I think we have to keep in mind why we have this program, so we don't have problems like West Virginia has had, or that Indiana has had, where they've had incidences and surges in HIV, surges in hepatitis. We don't want a secondary health crisis. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Grant. Is there any other councillor that wishes to be recognized on general city affairs? Councillor Litwin.
Thanks very much. I just wanted to commend the UVM Student Tenant Union, which is an organization I did not know existed until tonight, and for coming, and for spending time gathering the voices of students living in the dorms. I agree with Councillor Grant. I agree with Councillor Broderick. And as soon as they started speaking tonight, I immediately started emailing Director Ward, because I knew he was at the Board of Health meeting. And he basically communicated to me that while they don't do routine inspections because UVM is performing those, I will say allegedly performing those for folks who disagree. But he said he would want to know, his office would want to know about these types of things, code violations, and they will go and investigate in the dorms if they have a claim that they need to substantiate, if UVM will not fix the problem, which we heard some examples of students saying, hey, we complained about this and no one did anything. They absolutely have that protection in our city. And so I do encourage people to go to the DPI website, as Councillor Broderick mentioned. And then in addition, I emailed Councillor Broderick right away when these people were speaking, because I spent 3 years on the Housing Board of Review. I know quite a bit about our Chapter 8 and 18. And I'm also very passionate about making sure that people have safe, healthy homes to live in, and whether you are a downtown property owner or a university dorm owner, I guess. It's not really an owner. And so if additional strengthening of our ordinances is necessary, which of course I would want to have a conversation with Director Ward, I would be very happy to work with Councillor Broderick or anyone else at this table to identify what mechanisms need to be strengthened and either work that out in committee or bring forward something for ordinance, but that may or may not be necessary. So complain away, file your complaints with DPI, and if it's helpful if they have dates and evidence that you asked for these things to get fixed, although that's not always there, as we know. Sometimes these are verbal conversations. And then additionally, this brings up for me that when I was on the Housing Board of Review, which I was on for about 3 years, and I attended briefly their meeting last night just to see how it was going and realized it's the same merry-go-round. It's the same property owners doing the same things that we've told them not to do over and over. And so it sort of reminded me of things I wanted to do years ago before I became a city councilor. And so to my colleague, Councilor Broderick at UVM, I would love to do more education, if that's of interest, with student populations around what are their rights particularly under Chapter 18, and around security deposit withholdings and code violations and that sort of thing. That board is quasi-judicial, and we were not allowed to go out and do education because there was concern that it could be construed as impartial. And that board works very hard to maintain impartiality. I'm always very impressed with that. So, but I don't have to be impartial anymore. So I can go out and speak about some of these things that are in leases that really shouldn't be in leases, that aren't acceptable to our ordinance, that we just keep repeating over and over to some of the same property owners. And I would be more than happy to continue to educate renters on what their rights are around security deposit withholdings and this sort of thing. So thank you for the students who brought it forward tonight, and for Councilor Broderick for the support of those students. And they did not put their contact info on their really helpful packet, but I just sent the packet over to Director Ward as well. So he stands ready to support.
Thank you, Councilor Wynn. Is there any other councilor that wishes to be recognized on general city affairs? Okay. Seeing none, that takes us to City Council President, council updates. The only comment that I have is to acknowledge that we are meeting on Tuesday this week as opposed to Monday, reason being that last night was the main night of Diwali, which coincides with the beginning of a new lunar phase and a new moon, festival of lights on the darkest night of the year. And I'd like to wish a happy Diwali to those who celebrate. That's it for me. Seeing no other business before the City Council, absent objection, I will adjourn the meeting at 9:33 p.m. Thank you.